Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, welcome back to another Freaky Friday right here on TFRlive.com. Now, I've got Scotty Lopez here with me. I'm going to have to reconnect my Skype, though. Something is definitely going wrong with my Skype these days. It's my fault, folks.
Yeah.
Don't blame anyone else. It could be Skype. But I'll take the blame. I'll take the hit, all right? So, Scott, give me 2 seconds and I will hook us back up, brother. Okay, folks, I'm still with you all over here. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm still here. We'll get Scotty in just a moment. Let me try and reconnect it. We'll see if we can make things happen tonight. I'll get back to the network first. TFR. There we go. Come on, come on. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. I am Kev Baker, and that's why it went wrong. No, I'm Kev Baker, and this is Freaky Friday. And I hope all of you out there are ready to get your freak on, because I'm about to connect Scotty Lopez, and we are going to get into 3 hours of high strangeness, many mysteries, lots of woo, and I tell you what, I can't wait to get into after last night's show with Scott, which was absolutely brilliant. I got triggered on several occasions, but today it'll be nice and calm. We're sticking to the woo, and we've got plenty to talk about, Scotty. So how you doing, brother?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic.
How's your day been? You had a nice day?
Yeah. It's been a really nice day, actually. Made some of these hot ham and cheese sliders. Those are pretty good.
Oh, they sound pretty good, did they? Sound pretty good. Is that what you were partaking in just before the show there?
Yes.
After I'd sent you some interesting videos and some funny ones?
Very interesting videos. Indeed.
Now, yes, we're going to talk about one of them after we do the chat room. I done a video the other day. Some people may have seen it. Some people may not. Because I know not everyone makes it to the live streams and things. But before I done the live stream, I had noticed on my subscription feed that Cliff High had done a stream with cryptocurrency. They're a channel on YouTube. They're very much concerned in remote viewing. And Dick Alger is the name of the remote viewer in question. And I had to check it out because I'm thinking, well, what's Cliff doing on here? And the title of it looked kind of webbot-ish. Now, the webbot, Scott, we talked about the webbot many times in the past. In fact, it actually led to you creating your own webbot, right?
Yes, for those who have been listening to Freaky for a long time, some of the old school diehard listeners, you might have remembered that I had a funny little robot guy called the Webbutt, and it was an homage to Cliff High and the Webbot. It was It was a funny little satire thing that we used to do, but
no, a funny thing you used to do. I used to take the webbot very seriously indeed. It was like the be all and end all of forecasting for me, Scott. Okay, maybe not. I wasn't into it maybe that much, but no. We had good fun with it, and you know the webbot, for anyone out there, we're going to get into it in a moment because there's been a bit of an update. Another video's come out.
Yeah.
But Cliff High, a very, very clever man, computer programmer, and many years ago tried to write a software program that would, he hoped, would be able to maybe give them an edge in the financial markets by analysing language on the internet. It's one of the very first kind of, I don't want to call it AI, but in a way it is AI because it was going out, it was data mining, and it was finding patterns in language that
I mean it was a crude, it was kind of a first generation machine learning software code, basically, that was scraping data and then finding patterns in it. So yeah, but essentially it was a kind of a primitive AI machine learning sort of type of software.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it
Yeah.
was set up for that.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
when they started to look at the data sets that were getting returned, sure, there was some stuff that was relevant for financial markets, but it started to get a bit weird because it started to predict things in general terms as opposed to financial markets. And then it turned out that I think when you kind of analysed it, probably 50-50 hit and a miss, Scott. Some things it got absolutely spot on, some things a million miles wide, right? But 50-50, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like this 100%, everything that it spit out came to fruition, but the fact that there was enough of it that was, happening, like it did predict quite a few things. I mean, just that in itself showed that it was doing something, I mean, if it was just this kind of bunk thing, then it would just kind of like get everything wrong, right? I mean, it wouldn't really.
I think it
But
was the late 90s they
the fact
started
that
it.
it even
Wasn't it? It was the late 90s because I think it was that day in September that came up in the language that kind of, because they didn't know what it
and it
was
would,
until then.
but it would make sense, right? If it was looking at financial stuff, and there was a lot of financial movement right before that day in September, right? So, and I mean, if you think about it, there are a lot of things that affect financial markets. So, if it's out there scraping data and scanning language and trying to make sense out of everything that's kind of being fed into it in a real-time basis, then and then trying to project outward from that, then it's gonna pick up on events that the the software doesn't really distinguish between, really, like the data. It just sees that there's an event coming that could affect financial markets. Right? And that could
Not
be
even that.
anything.
Not even that, because really it would only return a kind of rough statistical kind of report on the
Yeah,
frequency of
it
words,
was.
and then there's a lot of it. Cliff himself admitted that he then had to interpret from that raw data, which is subjective, right? We could look at the same data, come up with something else, and I think that might be part of the reason it didn't get more accurate than 50-50. Because if you've only got one person looking at the data, you're only going to get one person's perspective of what it might mean, what they see it as. Whereas if you had maybe 10 people looking at it, maybe 10 people would come up with 10 different things.
It would be very interesting to take the software that Cliff High wrote, right? The sort of data statistical feed, and then have an AI interpret the data
Oh, dude.
that
Yeah.
the web bot scrapes, right? So instead of having to have a person, and that's generally just him, Cliff High, going through the data and trying to sort it out, if he was to pump that data into an AI system and then let it sort the data, I wonder
that's
what it would
edge
figure.
computing. You're describing edge computing there, Scott, because you're talking about a very narrow, specific AI going in, mining all of the language on Reddit and all the other forums where people are writing all the blogs, and then picking out the kind of really crude nuggets, not quite refined down, but sorting it from the morass of garbage that's out there. And then the big AI looks at those kind of selected parts, and like you said, bam, dude, that would be epic to see what turned out there. But we're going to get into that after we do the chat room. We have to do the chat room, Scott. We're getting deep into the conversation already, and I almost forgot the Wookiee caveman. And we're going to head on over to the Wookiee Cave now. And the Wookiee Cave, for anyone that's new, that is our chat room at tfrlive.com, the home of free speech radio. Over 30 shows, and there's something for everyone to choose from. Absolutely everyone can find something on TFR. Not only that, we've got a chat room that's open 24/7. It's always open. You can always go in there. There's always shows on. And you have to head on over there really quickly right now if you want to get yours truly, to give you a little shout out. So, yeah, you're going to have to be really quick because I'm heading into the chat room right now. Usually I give you a minute or so, but we've got really into the conversation early today. So over there right now at TFR Live, I see CJ Rich is in there. We've got Bam, Pogle, brilliant name, Cold Brews, Nightshade, Trudy Glenn, Paradoxical Anomaly, Buzzacino. Oh, Buzz was dropping some very rhythmic kind of text and lines. He's very much like Kevin from Minnesota when he strings the words together. Bit of a wordsmith is our Buzz. Love it. Yeah. Freeman is in there as well. Long time TFR personality. Because even the audience, you become a part of TFR, you see. Daryl, another one that's been there for years. CJ that I mentioned. Richie. Bill 13, another one. Uh-oh. Stand by. Firewalls up. There's somebody called the Hacker in there. The only thing I can think of, if he was a hacker, he wouldn't tell us, right? Firewalls up, Scott. Firewalls up. So anyway, let's get into the webbot. And why are we talking about the webbot in 2020 when realistically this stopped years ago? Well, there was something that Cliff High started to see in the data back in 2009. And this was before the world of like mass podcasting. People hadn't really taken up the live streaming and things, wasn't really a thing then. So the language that Cliff was getting centered around somebody in entertainment, in media, that would put on some kind of show. And because it was describing something that we didn't even have a word for then, a podcast, it was kind of, he didn't really know what to make of it. But the language kept coming back. And the reason that Cliff kept following it and kept an eye on it is because this was a temporal marker. Now, in the land of the webbot, there's a number of temporal markers that come up with every data set. And when those temporal markers come and go, that's almost like a sign that we're in this part, or we're on this part of the timeline, we're progressing along this line. Something's moved and we're moving on to the next set now. And long story short, earlier on this year, Cliff High, with that information that he had been gathering with the webbot from 2009, he went to crypto viewing. Or he went to one of the remote viewing services where Dick Alger is one of the viewers. Now, what happens in remote viewing is, if I wanted Scott to remote view something, I would go to a third party. And I would tell the third party roughly what the target is. In this case, Joe Rogan, right? And what that third party would then do is, they would assign the target a totally unique alphanumeric code. And they would take that code and no details whatsoever of what the actual viewing target was, and they give the code to the remote viewer. Now, it's quite uncanny when you get into remote viewing. Some people love it, some people hate it. I think it's fascinating, Scott. I think there's some people who are highly gifted at it. Some people can't. I couldn't do it, you know?
But yeah, remote viewing is definitely a thing. And I know that there's like a lot of people out there who's like, oh, the remote viewing is like fake. It's not a, no, it's a thing. And if if it was such a bunk sort of pseudoscience thing, then why did the CIA and the government invest so heavily into remote viewing programs for so long? It's an actual thing. It's a real thing.
And it's the perfect tool for a military. You don't have to put anyone into enemy territory. You don't even have to leave your base in your home country. You can do it totally, like it says, remotely. So
yeah, look, before you go on, I mean, look, if you believe in astral projection, then why can't you, why is there no, why couldn't somebody remote view? Because in essence, that's what it is. It's astral projection. I see the two in parallel with each other, like almost the same thing. You're astral projecting yourself into a location and you're viewing it. That's what it is. But yeah, I mean, go on. Sorry.
No, dude, perfect. It sets us up nicely because the remote viewer in question is somebody called Dick Alger, like I said. And then the first video that they done, they were talking about the remote viewing that Dick had done on this target. And what remote viewers do is they write down text, they do drawings, and it goes on like that. It's actually quite a long, drawn-out process when you actually sit down and look at how they do it. And what he drew, what he got back, was a picture of a dude in a hat, and it looked like he had like a kind of growth, kind of like stubble, not beardy, but kind of.
Yeah, he was wearing like a beanie kind of hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was another drawing that he'd done as well, wasn't there? Where there's a table, there's two microphones, there's Donald Trump on one side, and this dude, whoever it is, on the other side. Now, bear in mind, folks, this was done earlier on in the year, before news went viral about Joe Rogan basically saying, why doesn't Joe Biden and President Trump have a debate on the Joe Rogan show? Now, that went pretty viral. It was going all over. I think it was Debate Joe or Joe Debate and two Joes and a Trump, and there was a whole heap of hashtags going around. But long story short, back in 2009, whatever the webbot was doing, it was telling Cliff High that in the language that people were using in 2009, it was pointing to this future event that would be huge. It would be significant. The whole world near enough would be talking about it. You couldn't get away from it. And then, lo and behold, 11 years later, we're here, Scott. We're now in a time where there is a podcaster who very much looks like the dude that Dick Alger remote viewed, who very much sounds like what the webbot was talking about in 2009. And obviously we've had the news about Joe Biden and Trump. Now the significant thing is, even if this debate doesn't take place, no matter, because everyone talking about it online is what the webbot was picking up in language back in 2009. Now that there, dude, that blows my head. As a guy who loves the webbot and everything else, that is pretty dang impressive.
It's interesting because, I mean, first of all, 2009, the webbot is essentially describing, what Cliff High said was like a new form of entertainment, right?
Yep.
Some kind of a revolutionary form of because like you said, in that time there wasn't a word to describe it, which is what we call now a podcast, but it was describing that there was going to be this new form of entertainment and discussion medium that was going to come to fruition, and that there was going to be this guy that would be at the center of all of it, right? And of course, 2009, Nobody knew what Cliff Pie was having couldn't really decipher what was going on. So it's interesting. It's interesting, and then now we've seen this new form of entertainment come to fruition, which is the podcast. And Joe Rogan, he's the biggest podcaster on the planet right now, right?
And it's what it signifies as well, Scott, isn't it? Because it was one of these temporal markers that would signify, and myself and Nano kind of talked about this in the first segment of the show on Tuesday night. Nano had covered this back in June, when Cliff High had been talking about something called Psi World. I remember back in June, this was way before we had any murmurings or kind of idea that Joe Rogan would offer the two kind of presidential candidates a place to debate on his show. But this Joe Rogan podcast, this event, this thing that the Webbot was picking up on, Cliff High's talking about, and now Dick Alger's talking about, this was one of the main signifiers for us going into something called the Psi World. And there's another video's come out now, Scott. There's another video come out. And they were getting deeper into what the Psi World would kind of be like. It's pretty much like it says on the tin, like it sounds. It's going to be an explosion in technology. Something me and you have said for a while. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer, that part. I mean, we can see that already happening. But Cliff also said, and I kind of brought this up on the stream before we came on air here, that there's going to be something archaeological in nature that comes along as well. Something that causes men and women all over the world, no matter what your belief system may be, this is going to be news that has everybody talking. And interestingly, Scott, do you know the location he said that the language was pointing to back in the day when the language for Joe Rogan and everything else was coming up? It was pointing to something being discovered under the ice down in Antarctica.
Oh, very interesting. Wow.
So that's something we need to keep an eye on.
So is this some synchronicity, because we always seem to go to Antarctica as a topic of conversation, right?
Do you think that's a genetic thing? Do you think we know?
I think so. I think it's one of those kind of genetic memory kind of things where we feel drawn to Antarctica for a reason, just like we feel drawn to go to Mars for some reason, right? Like there's this inherent human desire to want to go off world and go to Mars. Like that seems to be this kind of collective goal that we want to achieve. And it's kind of the same thing with Antarctica. Everyone kind of seems to have this gut feeling that there's something there, that there's something mysterious and weird going on in Antarctica. And then you see the way that governments around the world treat Antarctica, where it's this international kumbaya cooperative zone that no country really has claim over. And it's like,
Bizarre,
okay.
Bizarre.
And now we got the Webbot pointing at something potentially big coming out of there.
Oh, it's all warming up, folks. You think 2020?
Yes, it is.
You think 2020's been a big year? You ain't seen nothing yet. Trust me. It's only going to get weirder from here on in. We'll be back after these messages. Don't go anywhere. There we go. We're back. I'm calmed down from our earlier stream, folks. I'm not getting triggered. Not getting triggered again? Not as much?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not
It's
yet.
okay.
Not until anybody starts copy pasting. I had a really good word for it. Instead of Christian, they were a copy pasting or something. I don't know what I called them, but it was funny at the time, Scott. And it's all good now. They're gone now. Ah, dang, dude. You get triggered sometimes when you do this live streaming patter, you know?
Yeah, it's like the people that tell you if you don't share the picture of Jesus on social media, you're gonna go to hell.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there.
Because we all know that God judges you on your sharing of a
He's what? That's who
picture,
watches you
right?
on social media, dude. It's not the NSA. It's not like alphabet agency. It's a big man. It's a 3-letter word, right enough. But who knew? So yeah. But with that said, they're gone. Freaky Friday is here now, and after the break, we'll briefly kind of wrap this up. We'll get into Antarctica a bit more, and then we're gonna take a kind of crazy deep dive into some random woo. I have got the rock apes of South Asia that were doing battle with GIs.
What?
Oh, you see, Scott, and we got that
boy.
from, yeah, it's gonna get wild, man. We got that from one of our viewers yesterday. I think it was somebody that was watching the premiere of the Lon Strickler show, probably the most woo-filled Kev Baker show there's ever been. And it was inspiring people to share their woo. And people were saying, have you never checked out the rock... But imagine somebody saying, you've never checked out the rock-throwing apes of South Asia? Oh, you know I was right onto Google, man. Whoa, what a story. So I only seen the headline, but I've got it saved for us to get into. It's going to be a good one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, you know it's good whenever your guest has so much woo and that it's such a woo-filled episode that it inspires others to just.
Dude, we started off the show by him sharing his UFO abduction experience, which I had never even. I mean, I'd heard him saying on previous shows he'd had an alien experience. Long story short, Lon described for us an event where he was showing something that sounded very like a chronovisor. Very like a chronovisor. And it showed him something that really sounded like Atlantis. And then they showed him episodes that showed that it's not a case of us waiting for aliens to show up. They've always been amongst us, dude. They've been here since the start. Whoa. So that's what set off that woo extravaganza in style, you know?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Indeed. Here we go.
Here we go.
In fact, we're not quite there yet. We're not quite there yet. Don't want to bring it back too early because it'll probably be... I'm not sure about the theme music on the breaks. It's probably copyright. You know what the content match on YouTube is like? Oh, it's hot. You get one kind of decibel similar to another tune. Yeah, that's you out. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Scotty Lopez is here. I'm here, Kev Baker, and you're all here. And you're here for the woo. So in part one, we talked briefly about something that I think you really need to look into yourself. I tried to explain this the other day, Scott, and you know, when I was going through it, because I keep thinking, maybe you're the same, I don't know, but we've been doing this for years, haven't we? I just assume that when I mention WebBot, everyone's as up to speed on WebBot as I am.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. And look, that's why I was even, poking fun at the WebBot and, in the beginning, because I didn't even know much about it, right? And you were just telling me about this crazy sort of computer that was like predicting the future and stuff. And, I never really looked into it too much, and so that's why I was kind of poking fun at it.
We were like WebBot acolytes. We would wait on the new report coming out, and it sometimes it'd be about 100 pages long, you know.
But now that I've had time to really look into it, I mean, there's something to it. There definitely is something to the WebBot, and Cliff High doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's this sensationalist that's trying to get a bunch of attention. He seems like a very, very smart individual. You know what I mean? Like he seems very grounded in like the scientific method, and I mean, hell, he's a coder. He coded the web bot. I mean, he's like a coding data genius kind of guy, basically. And so he's just merely interpreting what the software is spitting out at him. And here's the crazy thing, right? You know, he's the only one that's trying to interpret this data. How many of these predictions do you think just slipped through his fingers that he just wasn't able to interpret, or that he thought was junk data?
Do you know one of the things that did predict that I remember, Scott? Do you remember there was like, it seemed like there was a season where you would have people speaking on the news, and then halfway through speaking, it would just turn into gibberish. Do you remember that, Scott? I remember one girl. She was doing a report and outside broadcast.
there was like that whole spate of things where like news reporters would be like in the middle of a report, and then all of a sudden it would almost seem like they started having a stroke or something, and they would just start slurring their words. And
well, that was actually something that had been predicted. That was actually something that he had picked up on maybe a couple of years before it. Something happening to people in positions where they're reading the news. They wouldn't be able to talk. Something would come over their mind. They would be taken over. All that kind of loose kind of language that you can interpret anyway. Mm-hmm. And then we have this multiple events of newsreaders just kind of tripping out mid-sentence and didn't know what they were saying. So that's the kind of weird stuff. Like you say, because of it, some of it was so anomalous, he would put it into a segment called Space Goat Farts. That was actually the name of the segment, because it was just so out there. Some of the language, like podcasting, like that event, that entertainment show. That,
stuff that just, it didn't make sense at the time. It also makes you wonder how much of this stuff where we think it was wrong is just merely things that haven't happened yet.
Exactly. There may be things that we think have happened and we've chalked them off. Yeah, that's a hit. But really, maybe not. Maybe that was just a forerunner, a shadow of what's to come, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we really don't know what's going on with all of this data. And, that's why I said it would be interesting to actually feed it into an AI that could sort through it and try and make sense of it more than just, a single person could do. I mean, because as smart as Cliff High is, he's just one person.
He's
just
one man. Yep.
Yeah, and that thing's putting out so much data that
I can't believe
his brain.
We used to get Cliff High when we were on the big Kev Baker Show channel. He would jump into our streams all the time. Remember we'd have Cliff High hanging out in there. So I thought when I done the stream the other day, I think I might have to, because he calls me that silly Scotsman, LOL, in an affectionate way. What else can you describe me as other than a silly Scotsman? I think that's a compliment.
Now go into the whole thing of it predicting I would say the rise of Joe Rogan, and then Cliff High reached out to this remote viewer. Wasn't that the whole point of him reaching out, because he wanted to try to make sense of this data, and see what
confirm basically, and see if it was Joe? See if, because I think Cliff had kind of narrowed it down. He had decided it was Joe, but to get a blind kind of assessment, somebody else's take from another approach altogether, and they come up with the same thing.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. And another thing I kind of took away from that is, okay, so maybe the debate doesn't happen between Biden and Trump on the Rogan podcast, but that's not to say that Trump himself won't just show up
and
as
the
a
picture
guest.
just had the one there. It just had Trump,
Yeah,
remember?
the picture that the remote viewer drew showed what looked like just Trump and Joe Rogan sitting at a table. So
He's already been on one stupid show in Texas. Surely he could go on the world's #1 podcast in Texas now.
Yeah, you
Same
know,
city.
I mean, Trump is willing to put himself out there.
I don't see how it
he's
would do him any harm. I think he'd be well suited for Joe Rogan. If he wasn't the president, I think he'd have been a guest by now.
So that's the question of is it pointing towards Trump just going on Joe Rogan as a guest, or like I guess you could call it a presidential interview or something like that?
To me,
and then what comes out of that? I mean, because you know how many people are going to watch that?
Yeah, big time.
I mean, look how many people watched Rogan's podcast to begin with, and then having Trump on there, that would be like one of the most viewed things on the internet.
And again, even aside from that, though, I think the bit that really interests me, or the bit that really gets me, thank you very much, Marty. Big shout out to Marty, thank you. The thing that gets me, Scott, is what it signifies, what comes after it, what it kind of heralds the start of this kind of sci-fi.
It talks about it in the context of this Rogan Trump thing basically being the demarcation line to something big that comes afterwards as far as technological advancement. Now, when I was watching their discussion, I forget the remote viewer's name, but
it's his name, Big Dick Elgar. I'm only calling him his name.
There we go, Big Dick and Dick and Cliff, when they were having their discussion, you know, I know that they were kind of going out on speculation island a little bit and just kind of talking about maybe what could occur. And you know, you get everything from, because Rogan is going to ask that question. You know, he's going to ask the question, what about the aliens?
That was on
Did you see the files?
That was on Alger's list. It was on his list of topics that they talk about. He had a list of them. And folks, I can't play the clip because of copyright reasons. And that doesn't bother me. I get it. People are creating content. I hate kind of viewing along anyway. I urge you all to check it out. This is something that if you're into it, you're going to be really into it. If it's not for you, awesome. Move on, because we're not going to spend the full show on this, but a couple of notes I took from the second one, Scott. I'll get your thoughts on this. I've got the Antarctica involved will cause the world to stop and pause. There's no data to suggest my prediction for the year. No first contact coming. No, I thought we would get that this year. But it says that data that was turning up for a long time talked about a galactic internet that we would discover. Now, that sounds to me like it could be the Akashic Records. It could be, literally, like they say, a cosmic superhighway. But what Cliff was really keen to point out was that it could take us maybe 70 years from discovering it to getting our first word, what it actually means. Because it's going to be in code and a language that maybe we have never, ever seen before. But with AI, being able to mine that, I would imagine probably quicker.
Here's my interpretation of that. Galactic internet could also, at least for me, mean the quantum internet, which is now starting to be explored. And if you look into it, they say that the quantum internet will not be fully functional for like another 30 or 40 years. You know, this is still in its very, very infancy concept, and we're just now like like China and stuff are just doing very, very small proof of concept
They've got
sort
one in
of
America,
things.
40 miles it goes for, Scott. 40 miles.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good
But
going.
But when he talks about what would it refer to as the cosmic internet or something like
Galactic. Now, the only
that? Or
thing I would say, and I don't, it's not to like debate you or go against you because you've not seen the second video yet.
Yeah.
But he kind of said that this was like a repository that was already there. Now, maybe the quantum internet. Now, maybe the quantum. Maybe when it goes into one of these dimensions, it's going to come up with it. You know?
Well, there you go. I mean,
I never
because
thought
think
of that.
about it. Quantum, in essence, is galactic in a way, right? I mean, quantum is you're tapping into the sort of core essence building blocks of the universe, right? When you go quantum, you're tapping into other parallel dimensions, and I mean, look at the D wave and all of that. So I think that could definitely, I think it's definitely in play, and maybe the quantum internet does have that effect, Kev, of tapping into that Akashic record, right?
Who
Those
knows?
10%, those 10% resources
Yeah.
that mysteriously come back. Where do they come from? You know,
the one question that Geordie wouldn't answer.
Yeah, so maybe the quantum internet is the key that unlocks this Akashic record. You know, I don't know that, but like I said, I haven't seen the second video, but it's very interesting. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my mind here. Galactic internet. Well, it's like, well, okay, well, they're already working on. They're talking about this quantum internet that's going to be coming in the future, and what does that really herald for us? I mean, how does that play out, and what kind of information are we actually going to be able to glean from that? You know,
Some
that
good
massive jump
woo.
in technology.
Some good quantum woo, indeed.
Very
Scotty
good
boy.
quantum woo.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and the one thing that I'm really going to be looking out for now, obviously, because we've always talked about it anyway, it is the whole kind of Antarctica angle. There's something about that place. I mean, you've been with Doc Miller when he's been on here talking about when he was there, the 17 berth submarine base. That hole, it was just a hole, he said at the time, that they could only look down it. And then one of the future show, or one of the subsequent shows we done after that with the doc, he had said that he thought, it was his speculation, that when they were all going down there, like Buzz Aldrin and John Kerry and the head of the Russian Orthodox Church and people we didn't know about, his speculation, because he didn't know, was that maybe they had got down it. Maybe they had actually recovered what was in the hole. They were able to view down it. Something like that. I don't know, but it's always been in me. Just the secrecy around the place. The way that, you know, unless you, up until really recently, unless you were in a military, you weren't getting anywhere near Antarctica. And then we had Brad Olson. He's been down there, sailing down there. I think it was a Russian kind of icebreaker he went on, and he went round a couple of the bases. He spoke to some of the people. He asked them about the aliens, the UFOs. One of the places he went to, they knew about a story where somebody had seen something, but not the kind of woo that we'd have been looking for, Scott. You know, it was a bit of an anticlimax. But hey, sometimes the truth is like that. You know, you go down there, you're not guaranteed to bump into somebody that's going to spill their guts to you, you know?
Exactly. And then there's also an element of, is there a lot of kind of unspoken hush hush, keep everything quiet kind of thing down there as well?
Because if you're down there, you can be disappeared rather easily.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, so I mean, I don't know. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out. If there is this this great discovery or event that occurs focusing around something that, something that's found in Antarctica, and this whole Trump Rogan thing, if that plays out, and what occurs afterwards. Because I mean, like, from their discussion, sounds like there's going to be this explosion in technology or something after that it's going to herald in this thing. Makes you wonder.
Somebody's saying Empire Under the Ice is a great read. Have you ever? I've not heard of that one, Scott. Not heard of that.
Sounds good.
And I tell you, this is the thing, right? When you've done as many shows as me and Scott have done, it's inevitable that we can't recall everything, and that's why I love that we're all like part of this here. You people out there, you remember some of the guests, what they come out with, even more than people that interview them. And Jules says the doc gave latitude and longitude for something when he was on the last time. When I had him on the last time, Scotty, he was on fire, man. He was going for it. Apart from the fact
he's always on fire.
Well,
he's always on.
Apart from thinking I'm still Irish, but we'll let him away with that. It's a common mistake.
It's okay. The doc likes his PPP, so.
Did he not make his own hybrid strain when he was in college? Remember he told us that when he learned how to do things, he radiated it so that it would have unlimited growing power or something ridiculous like that. Remember?
Only the doc would engage in such scientific activities.
I remember the first time we had him on the show, it was midway through a sentence and then all you heard was bong bubbling away in the background. The doc just, I'm halfway through talking here, but I need a hit, He's a ledge.
Yeah. The doc has, I think he's mastered quantum travel, quantum teleportation.
Telling you, dude, if we could get some quantum teleportation going on, I'd be over at yours for some of your mum's cooking right now. I just know your mum can cook, dude. The things that you tell me about, there's nothing like a mum's cooking, right? I mean, you've got that whole Mexican kind of flavor thing going on there, dude. I love Mexican food.
She can throw down, and she can throw down everything from Southern cooking to Mexican. So
somebody's saying Irish is a totally different accent. Oh, I get it. Don't worry, I know that.
Yeah.
But the doc's the doc. The doc's the doc, and I'll always be his Irish friend. I can live with that. I mean, Clyde Lewis calls me Dave. At least the doc knows my name's Kev. Do you know what I mean? Nothing like your hero kicking you in the balls, calling you Dave twice on his own show. But anyway, not that sticks with me. Where do you want to move on to now, Scott? Will we go to the crazy rock apes? Is that what you want me? Will we dig up that one?
Yeah, let's just go there. That's just wild.
Okay, hang on.
That just sounds crazy.
Yeah, well, I find it then. Here we go. The rock apes. Here we go. Pull this up here. We'll get right into it. This is definitely this is going to be interesting. So this comes from the website War History Online. Rock apes, the yetis that plagued GIs in the Vietnam War. Now, Scott, have you ever heard about this? Because I'd never heard about it.
No, and I've heard a lot of crazy stories from Vietnam, but I've never heard of this sort of activity.
Remember we had Andy talking to us about Operation. Oh, it was the one with the crazy kind of, they played the kind of cultural noises and the sounds of Asian ghosts and death kind of stuff. Remember that?
Yeah, it was a
Operation
like psychological operation kind of thing.
Can't remember the name of it. It had a really cool name as well. But let's see what's going on here then. It says everyone has heard of cryptids, mysterious creatures, the existence of which is disputed by mainstream science, such as Nessie, the Sasquatch, and Yeti, also called the Abominable Snowman, or the dinosaur-like Mokel Mbembe of the jungles of Central Africa. Wow, I done well with that. Not very often you get a Mokel Mbembe thrown into your article. I've done it twice as well. So while rock apes or batutats, batutus,
No. Yeah, Batatoots, I would say.
yes, the Batatuts,
Yes.
as they are called in Vietnam. So Bigfoot is a Batatut in Vietnam, right? We've established that.
Okay.
Well, it says here they're nowhere near as well known as the aforementioned cryptids. I've never heard of that before, Scott, I must admit. Is that a new one?
Well, I mean, this just goes to, what we said, that there's a different. They're talking about the same thing. It's just each culture has their own name for it, right? So,
it's like that owl man in Cornwall.
We're essentially talking about, we're talking about a Bigfoot, Yeti, a giant, ape-like hominid cryptid that exists out there, and they're just called Batutoots in Vietnam.
I like it. The Batatut. Yes, indeed. Sightings of these mysterious creatures by American troops in the jungle of Vietnam throughout the course of the war were surprisingly numerous, with many witnesses giving extremely detailed accounts of the sightings. One particular hill in Vietnam was the site of so many rock ape sightings that it became known as Monkey Mountain. While no corpses of these strange creatures were ever recovered, or any clear pictures taken of them, the fact that sightings of them were so widespread and common throughout the war makes them worthy, at least, of an investigation. Thank you very much.
Shows keep getting better, Kev, keep it up.
Well, Jules, I have to agree with you there. I think, in general, the Freaky Fridays in particular have just been going through the roof lately. Big up to Scott, big up to Jason, all the other guests that have been on with us as well. Absolutely fantastic. And of course, folks, without you tuning into Freaky Friday, there'd be nothing. So take some credit yourself. And this story came from a listener. This wasn't me or Scott that dug this one up. This was one of you. So,
Very interesting that it also describes a lot of the same aspects like you get with Bigfoot, right? Corpses that you can't find, any sort of corpses or remains, and extremely rare and hard to photograph. So, I mean, it's got all of the trademark aspects of your classic Bigfoot.
Now, we're going to be going to the break in a moment, so I'm going to pause here. I'm going to ask you a question, though, Scott. Could there be a chance that what people were seeing may have been drug-induced?
Oh, very good possibility. I mean, we do know that there was a lot of weird testing going on in the Vietnam War. I mean, if I'm correct, there was incidents where they sprayed LSD on the front lines to cause the enemy to hallucinate and freak out. And I mean, that just wouldn't be isolated to enemy troops, because if you're downwind of that, I mean, that's not like a precise sort of thing. If they're just flying over doing some kind of a aerosol LSD sort of thing, you would assume that there was going to also be some friendlies that got that as well. So, I mean, that could be a possibility. I'm not going to discount that. I mean,
I must admit, when I first heard about it, I wondered if there was maybe a little aspect of that in it, but I think when we're starting to get into it, when you're naming like mountains after it, and we'll see what some of the stories have to say. I think it's genuine. I'm going genuine, yeah. We'll be back after the break. 1 hour down, 2 to go. Don't go anywhere. Now, I just need to go and make a little cup of coffee in a second. But Julie Mull, thank you very much. I got the wrong Julie before. It's because I'm so used to talking to Jules over on the Discord, and she's obviously our barista. She's the Starbucks woman. So she's always on my mind because of coffee, if nothing else, So Julie, thank you for that. Now, I'm going to put on some tunes. I'm going to go make a quick coffee. And I will be back in a moment with Scotty. And we will get right back into it, folks. And if you are in Discord, if there's anything like the skunk apes that we're talking about here, the kind of batutoots, I can't say that word, right? Batutu, right? Drop it in Disco, and myself and Scott will get to it. We're kind of live diving it. We're doing it on the fly, because that's what me and Scott tend to do. It always produces the best shows. Somebody like Jason, who came on last week with a pile of research. Jason's brilliant at that stuff. When I have to read out stuff like that, it all goes horribly wrong. So I'm going to make a coffee, be back in a moment. Don't go anywhere. And yes, Scott, we've got new tunes now, man. Not very freaky, but they'll do. There we go. You liking a bit of drum and bass, man?
Hey, you know, I was having a discussion with Polly in the disco the other week, and you know, I don't just like heavy metal. You know, I'm a big fan of a lot of experimental electronica.
Yeah.
I like D&B, I like jungle, all that good stuff. So if it's got a good electro
beat,
electro
it's got a
beat,
good beat to it, then I'm there.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, I'm down for it.
And of course, you did come in and you did take over our jukebox in the Discord, and it was great, Scott. It was great to have you hanging out in there, man. Need to do it again. Awesome. Good laugh.
I'll have to make my presence known a little more often.
It's the way
Spice
forward.
up the
It's the way
spice
forward,
up the
man.
jukebox. It is.
Big shout out to Edward, War, Polly, Jules, Marty, Julie again. Thank you for that. Rick, Zoe, one Polly. I think I got Polly. That's all I can see on the screen just now, folks. I'm not missing anyone out. Every break, I'll try and give people a shout out. Okay. But it gets a little bit busy in here on a Freaky Friday. Where are we at now? Oh, no view count. What's happened to my view count, Scott? Oh, here we go. Oh, we're coming back. Get it fixed. Here we go. Ah, how remiss of me. An hour into Freaky Friday, and that's the first call of the Wookiee. You know why that is, Scott?
Hey.
Because we're getting into the old, the mountain apes.
Yeah, I was about to say, what's it called again? The Ratatoot or something like that.
A tutu.
Yes. See, so the Wookiee, he felt the call. He had to give out his the call of the Wookiee, the global call of the Wookiee.
Yes.
Is what it was.
Yes, indeed. So with the call of the Wookiee in mind, let's get back into this, because we'd only got to the fact that they'd named a hill after it, really, hadn't we? I hadn't really dug deep into this, and I'm looking forward to it. So now I just need to find it. There we are. So it says then, rock apes were so named because of their supposed propensity, that's it, for throwing rocks, usually in retaliation though, after rocks were thrown at them first. Now, having been a soldier, admittedly not in Vietnam, I don't think I'd have opted for throwing a stone at one of these things if I'd seen it. I think I'd have been armed to the teeth, and I could have definitely afforded one magazine. What? Because you ain't getting away with one bullet on that thing. That's one magazine, fully auto, empty. I don't know if I'd be throwing rocks at it. But it says described as being up to 6 feet tall.
Wait, it also said that they were also said to toss grenades hurled their way back at the throwers.
Yeah, I just seen it there. So when you tossed a grenade at the enemy, these crazy buggers were going about just lobbing them back. Now that's a dangerous pastime. Right, I'm telling you, that takes kahunas. That's all I'm going to say. So described as being 6 foot tall. Now, Scott, is that not a little bit on the short side?
For a Bigfoot, yeah, it's about 2 feet. You know, Bigfoot's usually around 8 foot, right? Something like that. So these are a bit shorter.
Definitely seem a bit short. Now we've got a super chat coming in. My word, Edward, thank you very, very much, brother. Much appreciated.
Awesome.
But 6 foot, usually we're talking 7 to 8 feet. Usually they're usually bigger than your average dude, right? There he is. There's Homer. Hey, Homer.
Freaking Freaky Friday, finally a day without smoke, so let's PPP.
Myself and Scott, we will, yeah, we'll think about it. That's about all we're doing about it. But moving on. Let's not ponder that, Scott.
Yeah, let's not ponder that. But what's interesting though is it's a hell of a lot bigger than the enemy, because I mean, VC weren't that big compared to the American troops, right?
They were more my size. Little buggers.
They were more smaller statured, so I would say in general, seeing anything out there that's 6 feet tall that
it's gonna stand
wasn't
out.
part of. It's gonna stand out. Yeah. So.
Yeah, good point, man. So strongly built with long limbs and protruding stomachs, the rock apes, or batututs, were said by witnesses to be covered in brown or reddish brown hair. Now that sounds very similar to like your giant of Kandahar. That's a different bit of woo altogether. But they were also thought to live in troops. Oh, they were dancing monkeys. All right, not that kind of troop. Rather than living a solitary existence, and their habitat was confined to remote areas of the jungle, far from human habitation, areas of the Vietnam War, or that the Vietnam War opened up. Now, Scott, that there, the fact that there was multiples, I can't remember a Bigfoot sighting where you've had like a family of them.
Yeah, these sound very interesting. The description of them also sounds kind of like an orangutan. You know, the big pot belly kind of.
Yeah.
You know,
the ginger hair.
Yeah, not saying that they are an orangutan, but maybe some kind of a relative. Could be, very, very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, there are some interesting peculiarities about these that make them seem a little bit different than your average Bigfoot. Because I don't think I've really seen many reports of Bigfoots being in, troops, like
well, we've got Lon Strickler we can call on anytime now. Oh,
yeah,
Bigfoot expert, in the house. Yes, indeedy. So it says, I'm scrolling on down here. At first, the description of these creatures seemed to point to the fact that they may have simply been misidentified orangutans. I like the logic in this website. It's not a conspiracy site. War history online. But while orangutans once did inhabit Vietnam, they became extinct there thousands of years ago. Now that's interesting. Could it be time slips we're talking about? Don't know.
Ooh, maybe.
Yeah. Also, much of what troops in Vietnam reported about the rock apes doesn't really match typical orangutan behavior. Now, while orangutans are sometimes social animals, they spend far more time foraging alone. Another possible candidate for misidentification is the northern white-cheeked gibbon, which is native to Vietnam. Now, like the mysterious rock apes, these gibbons live in large social groups and spend most of their time in trees. But the size descriptions don't match up, and even as I'm reading it there, I'm thinking, that's a big gibbon if it's standing at 6 foot and it's lobbing grenades and stones at you.
Exactly. I mean,
At
you'd have to be talking.
at that point, it gives up its gibbon status and it becomes something entirely unique. You know?
It becomes a Nephilim, a Nephigibbon, I guess.
Nephigibbon, I like it, or a Negalum? I have no idea. No idea. A Gibbalum.
Yeah, a Gibbalum.
Gibbalum's good. With two toots and Gibbalums. So now I've got to gibbons are far smaller than 6 foot. They're heavily built rock apes with male white-cheeked gibbons weighing an average of 20 pounds. A bit like myself. Some rock ape sightings, however, may well have been gibbons because the rock apes in question were said to be only around 3 feet tall. Now, sightings of the rock apes by Viet Cong and NVA troops were also common enough that an NVA general, General Hoang Minh Ta, organized an expedition in 1974 to try or capture or at least kill one of these legendary creatures. Now, let's stop there. Scott, they led an expedition. This was something that obviously was very significant to them. In the middle of a battle that somebody had time to write down, we need to come back and check for these things, right?
So this is where to me, it starts to look like that there's something to this because we have reports of it coming from both sides, right? From the VC and American troops. They were both seeing this. It was this common thing that they were experiencing. And, the Viet Cong obviously felt, like you said, that it was something important enough to where they did an expedition, to try and find these things or catch one. So to me, that just lends it more credence in my book.
I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. So it says here, the expedition was unsuccessful, though, and no hard evidence for the existence of the rock apes was found. Don't worry about it. It's pretty much the same when you go looking for Bigfoot, Yeti, the wild men over here, the Yowies over in Australia, although I now know that the baby Yowies kick about with the Aboriginal mobs. Don't believe me? I've got a photograph to prove it. But I'll show you that one, Scott. I'll get that as the show goes on. But another expedition organised by Professor Vo Quay of the Vietnam National University was similarly unsuccessful. However, strange human-like but not human footprints were found in the jungle in 1970 by Professor Tran Hong Viet of Hanoi's Pedagogic University. He made casts of the footprints but found no further evidence of the rock ape's existence. Now, what the hell is that? That Lar gibbon looks like a bit of a candidate to me, does it not?
Yeah, those look kind of crazy.
Dropping that over at the chat room at TFR. You need to see this thing because I thought the gibbons were a bit outrageous to begin with. But now that I'm seeing this one, it definitely puts it in play. Where is that? What? There it is. Okay, it's coming to TFR right now. So then, we can move on here. It says, something quite striking about the many sightings of the rock apes reported by American troops is the fact that these creatures showed little to no fear of humans. They displayed this trait to such an extent that startled troops out on patrol in the jungle would allegedly often happen on rock apes at distances of a few yards, often getting quite a fright as they thought they had just come across an enemy patrol rather than a troop of monkeys or a group of apes. Now, this apparent lack of fear of humans could be explained by the fact that rock apes, if they did exist, inhabited ranges that were usually so far away from humans that they saw them as no threat. Or, if reports about their large size were accurate, that they saw human beings as too small or weak to present a significant threat to them. That sounds more likely to me, Scott. You got this big kind of thing that roams about the jungle at 6 foot, lobbing weapons and things like that. It's not really going to have much hassle from other species of like normal monkeys or things, is it? And then it sees us little kind of like 5.5 foot, hairless, beclothed, stupid looking non-monkeys. It's going to think, I can take that. I can take that in any fight. Look, it's got to have a gun. I don't need a gun. Wallop. Big stone in the head. You see?
And you got to wonder, like, the reports of it, like, lobbing grenades back, you got to wonder if it just thought it was a rock that was being thrown. And so it threw the, thinking it's going to throw the rock back.
I would hope so. Because we're opening up a whole kettle of fish if we're talking about it being able to identify the hand grenade and then throw it back. Nah, don't use these ones. Nah, take it back. That'd be even scarier. So, on at least one occasion, in fact, a large troop of rock apes were said to have attacked a group of Marines en masse. Now, an explanation put forth by the skeptics to explain away the rock ape phenomena is that these creatures were hallucinations. Conjured up in the troubled imagination of young men who were in a hostile, inhospitable environment and under extreme stress, with their lives under constant threat. The perfect sort of environment and conditions for young brains to conjure up illusions. And that's the, remember, this is a very mainline military website, and they're not going to admit the fact that they were spraying them with hallucinogenics.
Yes, there is that whole aspect that we discussed earlier. Could some of this have been some testing and weird psychological and chemical warfare kind of testing going on? It's possible, but I don't see this. I don't see the whole, oh, they're just stressed so they're hallucinating something, because if you're in an environment like that, you're going to be constantly on the lookout for VC. I think that's the thing your brain is going to be looking for and trying to spot in the jungle. I don't think it's going to all of a sudden just go, oh, look, I saw a gigantic ape creature
I wouldn't fancy
stress.
sharing a shell scrape with a cat that's had that's formed for hallucinating things. I don't want to be beside him in a battle.
Yeah, any time I've heard of any kind of soldier being spooked or maybe thinking he saw something, he thinks he sees the enemy.
Yep.
Right. It's not some random ape creature. So
you know what I seen one night, dude? You know what I seen one night? And it wasn't because there was bullets flying over our heads. It was purely sleep deprivation. It was the whole point of the exercise. We maybe got about 5 minutes at the most, then you'd be up. You'd have to bug out, grab everything into your sleeping bag. And it was crazy, Scott. You'd only go about 10 meters, and then they would say, right, get dug in. And the weirdest thing, the weirdest experience I've ever had on Salisbury Plain, was watching you see the Coca-Cola lorry that you see at Christmas time? It's got lights on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen one of them driving across Salisbury Plain.
No.
Not a road in sight. My mate next to me, I'm like, do you see that? He was sleeping on top of his gun. No, I didn't see none, Kev. Didn't see none. I'm like, oh God, here we go.
It's a good old-fashioned case of sleep deprivation and a little bit of lucid dreaming starting to kick in, I think.
Big time, dude. And you wouldn't believe how noises are. They're amplified at night anyway. Even if it's exercise, there's still a kid on enemy out there. And a crack in the forest in the middle of the night, oh, you're on edge. Absolutely. So, And that's without bullets. That's without VC to worry you. You know what I'm saying? And people out there are thinking, just as well Kev didn't go to a real war. Bloody hell. Guys, I would have been on the satellite detachment. They wouldn't have had me anywhere near action. It would have been all good.
They'd have heard your comms voice crackling over the radio, and you're like, I've got a Coca-Cola lorry about
got a bunch
5 clicks out.
Got a bunch of mountain apes, and they're throwing my grenade back. Boom. So anyway, it says here, also the prevalence of, the marijuana. It may have served to further prime the troops' minds for illusion. Even,
hold on.
No, that must have been some really good stuff. And I think if it makes you hallucinate, it's really gone beyond marijuana. You know?
Makes me think of Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke when Chong's like, you know, man, that Nam grass, man, do some weird things to you, man.
Classic, dude. Classic.
Yeah.
I haven't watched those films in years. They're probably banned now. Somebody's probably cancelled them. But it says here, while the true psychedelic drug, or a true psychedelic drug like LSD, would certainly have produced the kind of visual hallucinations that could account for rock ape sightings, it was not widely used by troops in the war. Now I'm gonna pause there as well.
Yes,
I'm not proud of
pause.
it. I'm not proud of it, but I've dropped a ton of acid in my life, from mushrooms to microdots. Maybe I'm not wired right, but I never got this whole like materializing things that just weren't there. Yeah, sometimes I would see something or a shadow that would look like something, but there was always something there that kind of to provide that visual hallucination. I never seen Mickey Mouse or any of these things, machine elves or any of this nonsense you hear about, trailing hands, fancy colours, you know, a bit of audible stuff, but never like rock-wielding Sasquatch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Usually your LSD experience is enhanced by your environment that you're in. You know,
or if you're like me and you're the smallest one in the gang, there's usually people there absolutely determined to put you on a bad trip. You know, telling you your feet are wet when you're stood on a blue carpet and silly stuff like that. And by the end of the night, you're sat there fishing on the carpet and you're wondering why you're doing it. I don't know. I just don't know.
I love how this article kind of glosses over that fact. Like, it brings up the LSD, but it's like, oh well, the troops, that was, you know, that was not widely used by the troops, and they really couldn't get a hold of that. But they completely gloss over the fact that the military itself, you know, the government itself was doing experiments with LSD.
I mean, I haven't researched the Vietnam War in depth, but what I do know is that there was a lot of testing going on. Heck of a lot of testing going on.
I think Paulie mentioned in the chat that, you know, said that LSD like couldn't be delivered via aerosol, but I think it could. I think that they, if I remember correctly from a lot of the stuff I've read, it could easily be aerosoled. I mean, all you have to do is get it on your skin.
Yep.
And you don't have to ingest it.
Oh, trust me.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Never, hypothetically, never like hold microdots tightly in your hand so you don't drop them.
Yes.
Because you're gonna get a shock. Because when you open your hand, there's gonna be nothing there, and then half an hour later, well, you don't need me to tell you what happens then. No.
Yeah. Don't ever handle.
And of course, all of this is hypothetical because me and Scott have led the lives of potential monks. We're just waiting to go to the monastery. That's it.
I wouldn't know anything about this. I'm not an expert.
Exactly.
In the least.
I watched it on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it says, so what ultimately is the truth about the mysterious rock apes of Vietnam? Were they misidentified orangutans or gibbons? Were they simply hallucinations conjured up by extremely stressed and troubled young minds? Were they an entirely new species, as yet undiscovered by science? That's possible. You're talking about a jungle that is, at the best of times when the war wasn't on, remote, very remote, highly plausible. I'm not saying it is, but it's very plausible. We're discovering new species of things all the time. All the time. So I'm open to that. I still think I'm landing more towards some kind of testing, experimentation on the troops, and
Maybe.
I think so. Until some
I
hard.
don't know.
On you go.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm leaning towards a Bigfoot type cryptid out there.
I like it. I'll go with you then. I'm going with you then. I was scared to go there, Scott. I thought, no, people are going to laugh if I say this is definitely one. No, I definitely think it is one. There you go. So until some hard evidence is found, we can't really give any of these questions a definitive answer. Perhaps some lucky researcher will come up with something and surprise the world. After all, the existence of the giant squid, the mythical kraken, long thought to be nothing but a legend, was proven to be real. Until then, though, stories of the rock apes remain just that. They're stories. Pretty interesting. Now, unfortunately, I can't remember the great person who tipped me off to the rock apes and the GIs, but whoever it was, thank you very, very much. That was really, really interesting because it's something I hadn't heard before.
It's good stuff. Good woo, and I like anything that mixes woo with like wartime stuff, and like the troops witnessing weird things, because I think that just adds a kind of a crazy aspect of it. Like it also makes me think of like the World War II stuff where you had the pilots viewing, seeing the Foo Fighters, right, and all of the UFO sort of sightings that were reported during like dogfights and stuff like that. So that's like crazy stuff. So, yeah, I bet.
I mean, the only thing
could it have been?
Did you mention the Foo Fighters there? Because I was busy looking at a kind of I was looking for our next story, but I'm trying to think of war scenarios where we've had like real weirdness, high strangeness.
Yeah, that's kind of the other thing that came to mind was like the Foo Fighter sightings in World War II, right? So you'd have these strange, the strange aerial phenomena, these strange aircraft that were being spotted.
Okay, does that tie in with what we were talking about with Antarctica?
Possibly.
Because we do know that the bad guys were definitely very scientifically advanced, shall we say. So, if they did have anti-grav technology then, could that account for the Foo Fighters? Maybe, maybe not. There's something about Roswell, Scott. There's something about Roswell that doesn't sit well with me when it comes to it being proof of like an alien crash retrieval. The timing of it, 1947, and I would imagine that was mid or just after the transfer of the kind of Project Paperclip, the scientists going over there. You'd have to think if they did have that tech and the people that were responsible for putting it together ended up, for argument's sake, in America, it'd be ridiculous to think that they didn't pursue that program further, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's definitely on the table. I know we're about to go to break, but we can get more into that when we get back, because I kind of have another little idea or a little theory about Roswell that I think is interesting.
Nice. We'll do that when we come back on the other side, and then we're going to keep it cryptid. We're going to keep cryptid.
Nice.
We've got a cryptid canine sighting in Pennsylvania. A cryptid canine. Is that the dog man? We'll be right back. Okay, there you go. Now, I know everybody here's probably seen this picture before, but I don't think Scott's seen it. So, Scott, this is the picture that was provided to us by somebody who I think I've known in a previous life. I know it sounds weird, but Donnie down in Australia provided us with this picture here. Hang on now, I've got it on the wrong.
Whoa!
Wait a minute. Wait.
What's that thing in the back, dude?
That's what we're about to talk about. Hang on now. Where did that go? There we go. If I pull this here and I pull this over here. Yeah.
Whoa! Hey! Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Is it on the screen? Hang on. It's not on the screen. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Right in here. I'll get it fixed for you folks. I'll get it fixed. Here we go. Let's see. Is it going to fix? Oh, that didn't look good. There you go. Yeah. There's a distinct difference between what we see on the left and to the front and... Now, Donnie describes this as...
Looks a little more hairy than the other individuals,
well,
just saying.
That's how they describe it. Donnie and Luna, they describe this as a little hairy person. Or, you ready, Scott? You ready? A little yowie.
Oh. Okay.
Now you think about that then, right? I mean, we talk about the Bigfoot, we talk about the Sasquatch. Australia's got the yowie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, nowhere else have I come across, like, Native American people, Paleo American people living alongside, interacting with, like, the Bigfoot. I mean, maybe there are stories out there like that. I don't know. But it would appear that this was quite... Speaking to Donnie and Luna, yeah, it's just one of the hairy people. Dude.
Well, hey, you know, the Aboriginals, you know, they think they have this special connection, right?
Well, they do, mate. You need to come on the next Australian show we do. It's beyond belief, man.
And I think it's because they have that deeper connection that I think these Yowies have that same connection, and that they're able to, like, bond with them or connect with them on a deeper level than other people.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's what you're seeing there.
Yeah, the Aboriginal
they understand
mob,
that they
they're
get
in harmony
it, you know?
with nature. They are in tune with it. So they're in tune with the animals, the plants, the other species, to the point where you're getting photos taken.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's
you're getting
amazing.
baby owies photobombing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, by not this segment coming up, but the next segment, okay, you've twisted my arm. We're definitely going to be taking a trip over to Australia, to the land of good woo. You know what's going to happen, Scott. Here we go. It'll no happen if I don't bring the network back. I'll tell you that much.
How dare you?
Greta. It's Freaky Friday. The Wookiee can dare to do whatever the Wookiee pleases. So we're moving into the second half of Freaky Friday already. This is crazy. I was on for an hour before I hooked up with you, Scott. And it feels like we've only been on for 5 minutes. Feels like we've barely started, man. It's going to be one of these good ones.
Yeah, these Freaky Fridays, they've been blowing by pretty quick because the conversations that we've been having and before
you get to Roswell, I was going to give a shout out to a no encrypted Jimmy Jeans is kicking about in the chat.
Jimmy,
our semi-shaved Sasquatch from California. How you doing, brother? Good to see you, man.
Awesome.
Hope you're enjoying the woo, Jimmy. I hope you're enjoying this, man. This is good woo. Good woo indeed. So, Scott, before we move on to a potential dogman / werewolf, Roswell, you were about to talk to us about your feelings on Roswell. Again, like I said, I don't know really what was going on there. I can go alien, I can go our tech, I could even go Russian. But what do you say?
Well, you know, I mean, you were talking about the bad guys in World War II and their wonder weapons and a lot of their technology that they were working on.
Weapons.
Yeah, wonder weapons. Yeah. Now, the Der Glock, right? The bell. Do we have any sort of date or timeline in which we know that it supposedly disappeared, or is that all just kind of up for speculation? Because I mean, I haven't.
Well, this is weird, right? Because
that deep into.
you know, there's actually a show right now. There's a show on Netflix, and I know everyone doesn't watch Netflix anymore, right? But there's a show on there, and it's called Signs. Now, the reason I bring it up, Scotty, is because it's set in Poland. It's a Polish crime drama. But there's a story that's strung throughout 2 seasons. And it's located right next to that big concrete, what would you call it? Like the landing site, the test site for the bell?
Yeah, because it was in Poland, right, where they were testing it, and it almost looks like a rounded.
It's like it's like a Stonehenge-ish, and I'm going to drop it in TFR so people can see here. But this
it's like a rounded concrete structure.
Yeah, this comes up in the show, and I mean, part of the show, there's obviously people in Poland to this day, and funnily enough, Karen, the Gherkins that I often shout out on the stream, they're in Poland. I need to ask them about this, but it would appear, if this program's anything to go by, there's still people that are searching for some of the stuff that the bad guys like buried and left in tunnels and mines and stuff like that. And this whole program, Signs, there's 2 seasons out, and it gets deeper into the bell stuff in season 2. And I can't really spoil it, but it's on about how that site where they done the work, allegedly on the bell, there's still something active to it. There's still some magnetic anomaly around it.
Interesting.
Now, they talk in the show as well about how, and they're reading from a German book, it's written in German, but they're talking about how they'd mastered this thing, the Vril. We talk about the Vril Society, but this Vril was like an energy source. And it talked about how it would use electromagnetics and electricity to send currents and force through red mercury in a specific manner. Now we've had all of these kind of data points not strung together the way this program put it, and it kind of hypothetically I had to rewind it, you know, because I don't have Netflix anymore. So hypothetically I rewound it, and then practice what you preach, right? But it's very, very interesting. Now, when it went missing, I just assume it was towards the end, when they seen the writing on the wall, when they started burying trains full of gold, when they were basically on the run, heading back to Berlin for the last showdown. So, when did it go missing? Did it go missing? Was it taken? Did it ever get finished? I don't know, Scott. I really don't know.
So here's my little theory, I guess.
Big theory.
My big theory, I guess you could say. Is it possible that Der Glock pulled a Philadelphia experiment, and it reemerged over the desert of New Mexico?
Whoa, dude. Now, my confirmation bias is kicking in because I've just watched this program recently. So I need to try and ditch that, because I want to say to you, damn, dude, That could be really on it. But the reason I'm saying, damn, dude, that could be really on it, is because of a fictional program I watched. And some of the stuff I've seen in that. So does it mean that was real that I've seen on the TV? Does
Well,
it mean that there's a chance what you're saying?
I
Yeah,
haven't
does it
seen
mean
the
there's a
program,
chance?
so
I think there's a
Yeah.
chance you could be right. I mean, if we're playing about in dimensions that we don't access without special technology, how do you control that and harness it the first couple of times out?
yeah, it just randomly, you're not, if you're not able to harness that power. I mean, you can generate that power and you can cause something to happen, but we saw what happened with the Philadelphia experiment, right? People ended up fused in bulkheads and all that stuff. And if this is the same kind of thing that happened with Der Glock, and it just blipped out, and they assumed it disappeared, but maybe what 2 years? I mean, we don't even know how many, what year it was that it disappeared, right? Maybe
it may have taken off
I don't
in
know.
1943, but landed, but came to 1947.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it just materializes, above the sky over there in New Mexico, and then it crashes into the ground, and the military gets out there and they see this.
They're not going to tell you. Oh, by the way, that was the bad guys from World War II in a time machine. Funnily enough, I think it would probably be more feasible. They would put out some kind of cover story, Scott. Right?
Yeah. Weather balloon.
Yeah.
And wouldn't something shaped like a bell be pretty on par with a flying saucer sort of shape as well? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That
dude.
general rounded. So
I think once you've got the technique of whatever you're doing with the mercury and the magnets, what shape you put it in after that's probably mute, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm liking that sort of theory and angle to Roswell. Maybe it was Der Glock, just kind of whoops, had a little time slip.
I've never thought of that, dude.
Of
That's a good one. That should be a book. That should be a book, man. I'm telling you, dude. There's a grift to be had out of that, Scott.
There is. And then the military goes, they pick up the pieces, they back engineer
and let's
that
face
technology.
It, right? Whether it was what you say, the time machine option, or if it's our tech transferred over, wouldn't it be convenient, really good cover, if you could start a conspiracy where there's flying saucers everywhere? Because then anytime somebody might catch glimpse of one of your secret craft, they're not going to think secret craft. They're going to think, I've seen one of those UFO things.
Also, a lot of the scientists and people from Paperclip were already here in the U.S. So all they would have to do is go bring them over, have them look at it and be like, hey, what did you guys know about this? Yeah, wow, we haven't seen this in years. Why did you find it?
Yeah, old Werner von Braun would have been going, oh no, I thought I'd left that in Poland.
Yeah. So, I mean, just throwing it out there, I think that's just a interesting angle to look at as well. I do think that the bad guys in World War II had a lot of crazy tech that even to this day is still.
You look at Argentina. They bought a power plant in Argentina, dude, where they weren't interested in providing power to the people of Argentina. No, they were interested in the production of like heavy water, which is really, really important in the kind of uranium business when you're starting to do that kind of stuff. I know that sounds weird, heavy water. I can't remember what constitutes heavy water off the top of my head.
It has an added I think it has an added hydrogen molecule to it, or oxygen to it. I think it's like H3O instead of H2O. I think is what
Heavy water
is.
is a form of water that contains only one deuterium rather than a common hydrogen 1 isotope.
Okay.
So they swap out the
Okay.
hydrogen for deuterium.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's really it's weird. Heavy water is strange in itself. And you can actually drink heavy water. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah.
Is it good for you?
I mean, I don't know. They don't know like
Do
what
you
the
glow in
effects
the
are
dark?
over one period of time. But
Do you end up going bald and glowing in the dark or something?
I watched a thing on it, and they said that you can drink heavy water, but I think eventually over time it probably isn't that great for you. But
and everyone thought Spider-Man just got bit by a spider. Bollocks! He was drinking heavy water. That's what done it to him.
But I think a lot of that technology, that wonder weapon technology, and a lot of the stuff that even to this day that is still hidden from us, that the bad guys in World War II were working on, I don't even think they developed a lot of it, to be honest. I think they back engineered a lot of stuff that they found. That's the thing. It wasn't like, I mean, they had a lot of brilliant scientists and a lot of smart people working on things. But I think a lot of that really radical technology, a lot of that really crazy out there stuff that they were working on was derived from things that they found in those archaeological expeditions that they were going on.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that they were finding and bringing back and essentially, back engineering it, and a lot of this stuff that they were doing with the Vril Society and, talking, this possible contact with entities and things like that they were receiving some kind of knowledge, some otherworldly knowledge in order to come up with a lot of these technological advancements.
If this kind of thing interests you folks, just go and Google it. You'll be there for a while. There's over 11 million results on the bad guys and ancient technology. I don't know how true this one is, Scott, but it might have been Steve Quayle. One of those boys, I don't know. Whoever it was talking about when they had gone over to the Himalayas, and again, I don't know if this is true or not. It fits with the kind of things we've heard, though. And it was almost like a doorway that was like carved into a mountain face. And they literally, if the story's true, again, I can't confirm or deny it, and I'm being honest about that. I'm second-hand info. I can't remember who's saying it. But they took it down, like brick for brick. And they took that, and whatever they done with it, whether they were going to try and recreate it somewhere else, I don't know. But that's what the story kind of went. And this was like, they were talking about how they'd gone to Egypt and everything,
No, I've heard that story as well. I mean, and it wouldn't surprise me because, I mean, Himmler was like big into the occult.
Yeah.
I mean, big into the occult.
Yeah, there's
he was the one
group. Just why you say that, they had a group called the Ananurba. Yeah, Ananurba.
Yeah, Ananurba. Yeah, and he was the head of that.
Yeah.
Like, was tasked with running all of that.
And then that cool castle with the kind of black sun thing on the floor, and the bit for the 12 of them to stand.
They were into some crazy stuff, man. And so, like, it wouldn't surprise me in the least that they were like out in the Himalayas finding these like ancient sites and then dismantling them and bringing them back. Like did they find like a Stargate out there and attempt to transfer it, like move the Stargate to another location?
That's the kind of thing they were they were looking at, though, you know, so it's in play.
That's the thing. That's the kind of stuff that they were trying to find. So, I mean, whether they did it, I mean, like, we can't confirm whether they actually did it or not, but I mean, it's an actual fact that they had a group that was out there doing this stuff, and that they were, I mean, that's not cheap either, to send these expeditions around the world in the middle of a war.
Yeah. I mean,
On top of that,
it looks at us here. I mean, this
it was
started
before the war. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, before and during the war. Yeah,
Yeah.
between 35 and 45.
Yeah, that's
So-
just got to bring that up so we can see that there. That's 10 years they were doing that, at least.
10 years. 10 years of investing in that, all the way to the very end. You know, so they were super, super serious about this and what they were doing. You know, goes back.
This is a good warm-up. Do you know what this is a good warm-up for? I'm going to announce it here today. Remember our friend Max from Germany?
Ah, yes.
He's been back in touch.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
The heat's died down. He's willing to come back on and talk. You see, you got to understand, folks, right? It's one thing me and Scott sitting talking about this stuff in Scotland and Kansas. It's a totally different ball game talking about this stuff in Germany. But this is like still like verboten, you know?
Bringing up the bad guys in World War II in Germany is.
That's why I'm very easy with Max. At his speed,
very touchy.
You know, yep.
Very touchy subject, and Max could face a lot of consequences.
I know that might sound silly to some people, but I mean, I know from what I know, and it's not much, that there's some things, like remember the UFO that the toy company made with the swastikas on it, and they banned that in Germany. Just banned. Could have nothing signifying that time. Funnily enough, they're still a bit touchy over it, you know.
Yeah, that little. Yeah, they like to kind of sterilize and keep that whole part of history.
As you would.
Yeah, they like to kind of act like that never happened, and it's a very.
You ever met any Germans, man? Germans are cool people. The ones I've met are pretty cool. They speak better English than I do, which is really embarrassing. They can drink beer till it comes out of their ears and it doesn't bother them at all. Cool
I had a friend named Mike from Germany. They migrated over here, and then he ended up joining the military here.
Wow!
But
man.
his parents, his mom and dad, straight up German, like.
Das ist gut, ja.
Barely speak English, but oh my god, dude. The German food that they would make over at his house.
Oh man, what they can do a sausage is unrivaled.
Yeah, the schnitzels and the sausages and all of that stuff.
Oh my goodness gracious me.
Awesome stuff, man.
Oh,
awesome
the belly's going. I'm telling you, dude.
I know. I just ate some sliders and I'm getting hungry again.
Yeah, but you know what else is interesting about this topic that we've fallen into here? And we'll get to the dog man in the next segment. It's the fact that we mentioned Werner von Braun, right? Now, you may or may not know that once they had done the whole moon thing, in the background on the back burner, von Braun had far, far, far bigger ambitions. The moon was just stop one. And many people will talk about how maybe he had planned to go to Mars and things. Venus is what the bad guys in World War II were interested in. And that is borne out in the computer game Wolfenstein, where they actually have a poster saying next stop, Venus. And this is what's cool about Freaky Friday, because how the hell can this connect with things that we've been talking about already today? Well, it can, because remember when we were talking about Joe Rogan and Cliff High and this significant time that Joe Rogan podcast might signify? Well, Cliff High and Dick Alger, two independent sources, the data set that Cliff High was getting kept on talking about UFOs, aliens, around about this event with Joe Rogan. On Dick Alger's kind of writing down where he's written all the things he writes, UFOs, aliens are on there. Now, you could say, well, you know, it's a no-brainer. Anyone that ends up on Joe Rogan's going to talk about aliens. But isn't it interesting that all of this happened in the same week that we had it confirmed that there's potentially signs of alien life, not on Mars, but on Venus?
Exactly.
Isn't that weird, dude?
It is very strange. And, you know, was it they found this compound, this chemical compound in the atmosphere of Venus called, it was a phosphine or something like that?
Yep.
And it's only created by biological sources, at least as far as we know. It's created by
dead fish. Dead fish is one of the things that can cause it. There's bacteria as well.
It's created by like bacteria that lives in extremely oxygen deprived environments. And I would say Venus is a pretty good candidate for a very oxygen deprived environment. But if you had some kind of a extremophile or it was an extremophile bacteria or some organism that might live in the rocks, or actually, I think in the atmosphere. The hypothesis right now being floated around is that it's actually cooler in the upper atmosphere of Venus, and the temperatures in the upper atmosphere of Venus are actually very close to Earth's temperatures.
And we couldn't handle the pressure down low. The pressure would crush us instantly. But again, here's us again though, Scott, right? And this kind of annoys me when I read the story. We're still strictly adhering to life must be similar to us.
Yeah.
So we look at Venus and we look at where we could live on Venus and we think, well, maybe that's where it is then. But it could be living on the surface for all we know, you know?
Yeah, but, you know, it made me think another way, too, because when the actual article proposed that hypothesis of a bacteria that it lives in the atmosphere, I'm like, okay, well, then that does make sense. You know, a bacteria is extremely small. It can attach itself to, you know, droplets or vapors that are floating around in the atmosphere. And that could just be its habitat. It could be a constant airborne, you know, organism that just lives in the upper atmosphere, these cloud layers of Venus, and that could be what's creating this phosphine.
You know, the last season of Lost in Space, the new version, not the old one, but the new version, they had a episode in that where they went into the atmosphere of Venus, and when they were trying to escape from the atmosphere of Venus, they were getting pulled down by the pressure and things, Scotty. They came across things in the atmosphere. Obviously, I mean, you know yourself, they researched like what life could be like potentially on Venus. And they had these like almost like big massive Kraken style squids and weird alien things flying about, swimming about in the atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Look, I mean,
and look at me as if to say, what on earth's name are they talking about now? Whales and things flying about on Venus? Is he mad? Yes, I'm mad. It's Freaky Friday. You're lucky. You're lucky because people nearly heard you snoring. I'm just saying. On my stream earlier, I kind of went, shh, if we do an ASMR, we might hear Anne snoring. But she didn't get it going. She didn't get that raucous snore going, you know? You were going to ASMR me there, weren't you? You were. Scott's good at that. We'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. You don't know what ASMR or AMSR is? And it's when they talk to you. Like that. They're dead
Just-
creepy.
Just sit back. Just sit back, Ann. Just sit back and relax.
It's creepy, dude. I don't like that stuff, man. It's something really weird about that, man.
It has the total opposite effect on me. It starts making me aggro. Like I start getting angry.
I want to slap them and say, bloody speak properly.
Yeah, exactly. I start getting agitated.
Can you imagine
and
if you're in
angry.
a real life scenario, right? You know, you're out and about, you bump into somebody and they come right up to your face and they start talking dead soft and slowly in your ear. Getty! Getty! That's how that conversation goes, Scotty boy. It's a one-way conversation and they ain't getting a word in. Yeah. So, what's ZX saying? Perhaps aliens are living in exactly the same place as us all, just in a different reality, close enough to jump between. Dude, why not? Why not, man?
Very, very possible.
Rocket snore stoves are a good survival tool. Rocket snore stoves. See, we even get prepping tips in here. Polly. I've never heard of that before. I'm going to have to Google that after this. Methane-based life. Just say, get the wets in. Oh, big wreck. Typical Marine, I'm telling you. The aliens are living here, man. They've always been from here. Absolutely. Absolutely. Whatever. Yeah, and then there's nonsense as well. Space is far too big to transit directly. There must be flipping and wormholes. You know, wormholes are entirely hypothetical, but I like them. I do like them. It's a nice idea, isn't it? Go into a black hole and pop out a white one or something. I don't know. Maybe you go into the sun. Who knows? I know that sounds bizarre. Sounds totally counterintuitive, flying straight into your local star. Maybe, who knows, man?
I mean, based off of what we know so far, it's theoretically possible.
Me and ZX know exactly how they do it anyway. ZX, you know how they do it. You press control and your No Man's Sky ship takes off. It goes into warp, dude. ZX was trying to watch me playing that earlier on. ZX is like, he's a master of his corner of the galaxy. He's got guns and weapons and things I've never even seen before. Me, I'm struggling to take on 2 drones with a crappy gun that fires pellets, Scott. It was pathetic, man.
Have you ever seen or heard of EVE Online?
No.
Oh my goodness. I'll have to fill you in on that.
Yeah.
Maybe. If you want to talk about a crazy sort of simulation ecosystem kind of thing where people kind of live in a double life in sort of this
Altered reality.
It's a crazy game. Yeah, but it's been around for a long time. I don't know. We might get into it. I know you got other stuff you want to talk about, but I've always found that game very okay.
We can,
okay.
And then you know, I was watching one of my favorite YouTube channels. In fact, I'll bring it up. We're gonna come back here. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I can't believe it. 1 hour to go on today's Freaky Friday. It has flown by. Really can't thank you all enough for being here. And what's super exciting is that we're just the warm-up act, and me and Scott love that. No pressure on us, because we just get you ready for Brent Thomas, and he will take the woo to the next level. Love that guy. Can't wait for the next Friday the 13th. It just never seems to come round, Scott. We've been waiting since March, I think, for the next Friday the 13th, and it still isn't here yet.
Look, it's one of those things to where
it'll happen when it happens.
It happens when it happens, and it's one of those significant days, right? So you can't just have it happening just willy-nilly every week. Friday the 13th has to be its own special.
You know, Kazi in the chat and YouTube says former government agents discuss the UFO mythology as a powerful weapon of mass deception and the perfect cover for all the clandestine technologies and operations led by the US. Absolutely, but one thing I would add to that is that if they're a former government agent, you're never a former government agent. And if you're running about on YouTube saying that you're a government agent, well, we took a look at one of those last night, right? And we don't need to bring up the code name of his secret source, do we? Not again.
Deceptions within deceptions, and then double deceptions, and all of that.
It's like that Nick Pope from the UK. I don't trust him as far as I could throw him.
Absolutely.
No.
Anybody who says they're a former CIA or government spook of some kind, they're not former.
And if they're allowed to talk about things, they've been sanctioned. They've been allowed to talk about it. Because if they ain't, they're going to get done for, like, Official Secrets Act. I mean, the bit of the army I was in, anything to do with the government in the UK are signed up to the Secrets Act. And then you've got Nick Pope, who's like a millionaire on the back of going out and telling the world all the UFO cases he never worked on at the government. Because he was the guy that took the reports, but none of them were ever really UFOs, Scott. There was none really that was ever worthy of investigating. But I tell you what, though, he's managed to make a pretty good living out of writing books about something that didn't exist, that he didn't deal with. I'm just saying, Nick, you know?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Funnily enough, I don't think we'll be getting him on the show. But anyway. Now, before we get to the K9 cryptid, and I am going to get there, Scott's going to tell us about an augmented reality thing or some kind of thing later on in the show. On you go for it now, dude. We've got an hour.
No, I mean, because
final segment, Dogman. We'll leave him for the final segment.
But you were discussing No Man's Sky during the break.
Yeah.
And, just how amazing that game is. After it had a rough launch and all of that stuff, and then they went back in there, they fixed it. And it really is an amazing game. But there's a game that's been around for a long time that I find fascinating. Not in the sense of like it being a universe simulator, because it's really not. I wouldn't say a universe simulator like No Man's Sky is, but just kind of the scale of it and the sort of I guess you could call it alternate digital reality that it has created, and it's a game called EVE Online.
Oh, and EVE, yeah, man, it's huge, dude.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you can become like a miner, you can become like one of the priesthood, you can join like a federation. There's an even better one that's free right now if anyone's into these games. Star Citizen.
Star Citizen is kind of like it's going to be the new EVE, I guess, that they're working on. It's got that same aspect. But the thing that blows my mind about EVE is how it's pretty much all ran by the players.
Yeah.
Like the economy and everything is it literally is like a universal like space Wild West sort of game where the players really kind of form their own economy and factions and things like that, and like the developers and all of that, it's very kind of hands off. There's really not like a storyline per se that is being followed or that you're being guided through or anything like that. It's really crazy, but there is a lot of like real money tied into that game, based off like assets and stuff that you can buy in the game that people, actually dump real money into. But I don't know. There's just a lot of fascinating stuff about that is always. It's first of all, I mean, it's not a game that like I personally can get into because it's so in depth that there's like a really big learning curve. You got to really invest a lot of time into it. But I know that there's been like huge space battles where like thousands, tens of thousands of dollars of like real money was lost in these battles because ships and stuff were destroyed that people actually paid for with real currency and stuff. It's just crazy, man. It just, I don't know, there's something about it that just it reminds me of kind of like Second Life or something like that, where people are just kind of living out an entirely second kind of life in this Eve world. Pretty wild, man.
Yeah,
pretty wild.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Now, somebody in the chat room had asked me about the Mirage Men. That was a documentary, from what I can see here. I remember seeing an interview with the guy that made it. Richard Doty, is he one of the people that's in it? I don't know what to make of it. I really don't know enough about it, Kazi, to tell you one way or another. One thing I will tell you, though, from my experience of covering the UFOs and dealing with people that claim to be from secret space programs and things like that, always keep an open mind. But that's all I would say to it. Never let that definitively put you in one mindset or another. There's so many of these people are either just fantasists. If they are ex-alphabet agency, you can take the X away because you're always a phone call away. And if you're being sanctioned to put out information, then, well, for what reason? Is it to deceive you? Is it a controlled release? It's so hard to really know, and especially when it comes to ufology. In recent years, it's become, for me, really, really disappointing. Because and I don't call it a truth movement anymore, but as the whole ufology scene has grown with the rise of the internet and people being able to share information and everything else, it's also unfortunately turned into a really good cottage industry and a grift. And there's a lot of people out there that, I'm sorry to say it, but they're just not being honest. Now, I can't tell you who's honest and who's not. Some of them are half honest, some of them are half lying. And that's why I say I would never, just base your own opinion on just one or two sources or just one documentary, something like that. I think it's inevitable there'll be some deception coming from the government if they want to cover up their own tech. Very convenient cover if people are pointing up at the sky and thinking it's the Palladians, when in reality it's a new engine or a new technology that they're trialing out. And I don't mean to sound kind of almost like down on it, Scott, but I used to be huge into the UFOs, but because of the way it's become, I rarely spend the time I used to looking at it, between CGIs, people like Corey Good, an absolute con man. Absolute con man. David Wilcock, absolute con man. And yet these people are what people want to go and watch. They want to pay extortionate amount of money to go and listen to these people talking about basically something they've made up in their own minds. And that becomes the face of ufology, and I don't know, dude, for me, it's, I don't know,
the thing is that it was very easy from the get-go to go in and muddy the waters with ufology because just the nature of it to begin with. I mean, you're constantly trying to prove something that is hard to prove. I mean, that's the whole thing of ufology to begin with, and then the ease in which people can run hoaxes, and then the amount of disinformation that ends up becoming injected into the whole ufology scene, which, I mean, obviously the government has played a role in that. I mean, they, like you said, I mean, if you're wanting to cover up any kind of radical new technology, you can always just throw out the UFO card, and it's just, I'm like you. I don't like want to poo-poo the whole UFO thing, because I believe that there
so
are
do I.
UFO.
but
There's UFOs. There's unidentified objects, and I do believe that there is a percentage of them that are totally unexplained, that are not technology that we've created. It's not black project stuff. That there's a percentage of those that are truly like something that is not from this planet or from this realm, whatever you want to describe it as, aliens or entities or interdimensional things blipping in and out. That there's something weird going on. But I think with all of this disclosure stuff that's happening right now, this ATIP stuff, this To the Stars Academy, all of a sudden the government is going to be our friend and investigate this stuff and all of that. It's like, no. There's a much larger operation going on here that they're hoodwinking everyone with, and it's just hard for me to really get involved in the whole ufology scene right now. I just have to kind of step back and just watch it all play out, because whether they realize it or not, they're being played and they're part of this operation. Unfortunately, a lot of these people in the scene are being manipulated, and they're buying into things that I think they might not realize it, but they're kind of playing a role in the disinfo. And then some people are knowingly putting out disinfo.
Absolutely knowingly. Like Shellcock and Shergard's teeth. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of other people that are just kind of like buying into it, and they're not realizing that there's something deeper going on, So
like when I first woke up, dude, Project Camelot. Oh, sorry, I mean Project Cameltoe. No, I mean Project Camelot. I was right the first time, Camelot. I used to love listening to that. You'd have all these fantastical tales. People that claim to be like insiders, who've been in like this organization, that organization. And I used to be sitting there hanging off their every word. Because it's what I wanted to hear. This is brilliant. This is what I've always thought it is. I knew I was right. I knew it was out there. And it's okay until you start looking beneath the surface and you start to fact check the people that you've been trusting for a long time, thinking that they're just as genuine as you, that they want to get to the truth as well. Yeah, you soon have to lose that naivety in this realm, that's for sure. So where the truth lies, Scott, where the truth lies in all of this, no, but I mean, I don't know who to refer people to. Richard Dolan is somebody that for me has been a very, very reputable kind of researcher in this. We lost Stanton Friedman a few years ago. The boy at the Black Vault. Oh, what's his name? It's the one that does the Freedom of Information requests. John something, I think. He runs the Black Vault anyway. I think he's probably one of the best ones to kind of follow. You know what's wrong? I interviewed him with Ella Free on her show right here on TFR a couple of years ago. I cannot remember his name. I'll find it. But where do we want to go next, Scott? We're going to save the kind of dog man for after the break, I think. But I'm just going to find this guy's name. Black Vault. Oh. You keep talking, dude. I'll find his name. John Greenwald. That's it. That's it.
There you
John
go.
Greenwald. Yeah, he's good. He's definitely good.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of good people out there that research the whole UFO phenomenon, you know, but I just think a lot of these more mainstream groups that seem to get promoted a lot and pushed into kind of mainstream coverage and all of that. That's when you got to start going,
You see,
Why-
what I like about the Black Vault, Scott, is it's freedom of information requests. Now, you could say, well, it's the government, they're never going to tell you anything, but this is the way that you have to go about it. If you want to get research done, this is how you do it. You don't find somebody that's just kicking about on YouTube claiming that they're having liaisons with blue chickens on the outer realms of the solar system, going away for 5 minutes in this world, but really they've been away for 22 years doing a full term of service. Really? If that was the case, do you think somebody like that would be allowed to run about on YouTube telling everyone? I mean, I don't know. Edward Snowden, he blew the whistle on some pretty secret stuff, and well, I don't see him running about YouTube channels and hanging about with Kerry Cassidy and getting a program over on Gaia and all the rest of it. Do you know what I mean? And I hate to sound so cynical, but that's what these characters have done to ufology. They've dirtied it, you know? You can't look at anyone that comes along now without thinking to yourself, oh, this is the next Wilcock, the next Shellcock, the next Corey Good, you know?
and maybe that was the plan, you know, to fragment and disrupt the ufology research community from the inside, right? Maybe it's a form of cognitive infiltration that we're talking about here, where, you know, you muddy the waters to where people end up becoming like us in a way where we kind of we always look at everything that's put out with a skeptical eye, and we're like, I don't know if I believe that or not, right? So, and all it takes is, you know, maybe something does come out that's legit, but the waters have been muddied so much that people will just brush it off.
Yeah,
you know,
you can guarantee Wilcock will come out with a new video that week where the 99% of the audience will go and watch that. He only done a 5-hour live stream the other day, you know. But a lot of that stuff as well is playing into what people want to hear, and hopium. A whole heap of hopium as well, because I remember 2006. Was it 2006? Yeah, it would have been 2006, round about the time when we started to hear that there would be this new guy on the scene. This Barack Obama. Who is this dude? Well, this dude's the disclosure president, according to David Shellcock.
Yeah, I remember that.
There's going to be mass arrests as well. Does that ring a bell? David Wilcock talking about mass arrests and the disclosure president? Well, obviously, Obama didn't really come to much, and that caused David Wilcock to go into hiding because the deep state and the cabal were after him. Or maybe he was just getting asked too many tough questions. But of course now we're back to mass arrests are coming. The aliens, the good ones are out there. We're talking to them. They've got your back. Don't you worry about it. I can guarantee you, once Trump's gone, the next president that comes along, he'll be the disclosure president as well. Yeah, it's how they roll, folks. It's how they roll. And that dude's literally turned it into religion. He's turned it into a bloody religion. It's a cult. So I don't know where you go for your UFO news. I wouldn't even say... I can't give it to you because I don't know what I'm reading online, if it's right or wrong. Just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, all we could do is just... I mean, if there's some crazy video that comes out, we can just throw our 2 cents in on it, and that's about it.
Day. There was one, well, I think it was pretty con job. It was New York. There was meant to have been a mass sighting, but not one person can hold a camera still enough to get like a good 5-second view of it. Funny how the camera moving everywhere. But I tell you something, there is a very, I've started using After Effects, right? Well, obviously, I go and look for 3D models that I can use, things like that, and it does, the video in question, the New York one, there's a very similar 3D model that you can download for free off of Turbo Squid. That's a 3D Elements kind of site that you can go to if you want to take the time and search through there. It's amazing how many of these big UFO sighting videos look eerily like the 3D models that you can download yourself and put into After Effects. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And it's now that you've been messing with After Effects a bunch, isn't it
Easy.
shocking how easy you could blend in with some blurred footage and make it look like the blur's coming from that angle, that direction. So even if the camera's moving and everything blurs on the screen, you can take that model and motion track it and add a blur effect on it. It's shocking how easy it is to put out fake UFO videos, which is also another reason why we're just so skeptical now about it. Back in the day, it used to be a lot harder. I mean, you could still do it. There was still a fair share of fake UFO videos, fake photos, and stuff like that. But the ease in which it can be done now by anybody with a computer and After Effects, you just can't immediately go, oh, that's a real deal right there. It's like, And
I showed you a part of it the other night where you can literally now almost do like a light deep fake in After Effects. It's getting to the point of it's horrible. It's getting to the point of you're not going to be able to trust anything soon that you see.
Yeah, it has that same face tracking technology that Snapchat has, and you can overlay another face. I mean, it's not like a true deep fake, but it's a very close kind of deep fake knockoff kind of thing that is it can be really convincing if you do it just right and stuff like that. So
well, we're almost on the break, dude. We're almost there. We've killed time. We've marked time in this segment. We did. We killed a bit of time. I promised not to rant tonight, and then bloody Wilcock came up.
It's okay. It's okay. It happens.
Twice I've been triggered today, man. Twice. Maybe there's going to be a third time. Third time lucky, I'll get really triggered. Don't be trying to trigger me, people. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'll have to close the chat. But when we come back after the break, Scott, I've got a dog man somewhere. I found a dog man story somewhere. We'll get into that. And I'm sure we'll be able to find a mysterious universe to take us out in time for Brent Thomas.
Yes, we will definitely have enough to work with, no doubt.
Yes, indeed. And while we're here, we've got a couple of minutes before the break. Monday on the Kev Baker Show, the octopus is back. Yes, that's right. Charlie Robinson is back.
I was just about to say.
Show. Did you think I was getting the Kraken on, Scott?
Nah, you said the octopus, and I already knew who you were talking about. The octopus of global control.
I love that guy. I really, really love Charlie Robinson.
Cool.
He's funny. He's a great researcher. He's an absolutely wicked writer. And I don't know, he just fits the Kev Baker Show perfectly. Good woo. Well, no, good info. A little bit of woo. And just good fun along the way. So be sure to tune in for that. I'm trying to think who else I've got coming up next week. Coming up in the next few weeks at some point. I'm just waiting for a date. It's going to be Nick Redfern. And it's not just me throwing it out there. I'm waiting for a date. Just for it to be confirmed. And
nice.
Couple of others, but they're not far enough along the kind of process yet for me to throw out there because I'll fall flat on my face. But with that said, one more segment to go right here on your Freaky Friday. We'll take it right into the Freaky Woo since we didn't waste this segment, but we didn't keep it on the par of Woo, where we were going with skunk apes and rock apes and bad guys in World War II, and oh, dude, we'll be back. Don't go anywhere. That was my fault. I was too interested to hear about you talking about computer games. That was my fault.
That's fine. Hey, while we're on the break, because I know we're going to get into Dogman when we get back, but breaking news, a little interesting synchronicity here, since we were just talking about what we were just talking about. This is on the one of the top headlines on Mysterious Universe. Tom DeLonge claims that he helped. Tom DeLonge claims that he helped brief President Trump on extraterrestrials.
God almighty. Probably. He's hanging about with the right Pentagon people, isn't he?
Yeah. So, hey, maybe when Trump goes on Rogan's show, he'll spill the beans, and we'll enter that new age of technological advancement, Kev.
Oh, wow, man. Wow. Wowzers. I think you need to bring that story up. I think that'd be a good one to finish the day off with, Scott. You need to finish it with that, because I won't be able to go to the dog man if you hit me with that first. I'll end up ranting and raging, and I know it won't go well, Scott.
Are you sure?
I know it won't go well. You definitely need to save that one probably till last. Yep.
Okay.
I think so.
I'll dump it in the Skype in case you wanna just kind of peruse
Tom
it.
DeLonge, the Blink 182 singer, Lewis. He is he's their chosen face of disclosure. Poor Tom DeLonge. He's always been interested in UFOs. And then they came along and they told him exactly what any UFO enthusiast would want to hear. Tom, how do you fancy being our guy? Our guy. You know, we've got people from the CIA, the Pentagon, but we need a face, we need a front. And you, my friend, a pop star. People already know you, you're perfect. You've got the patter, you know how to work a crowd. And Tom DeLonge probably thinking, wow, I'm going to get access to the UFO file. Yeah, the one that Hal Puthoff and Chris Mellon and all these other spooks put together. So, hey, dude, if he's been briefing Trumpage, hey. I don't know. What can you say?
Telling you.
It's real. I'm wrong. Corey Good's real. David Wilcock's real. It's all real, folks. Don't listen to a word I bloody say. I get paid by... Who would pay me to say that it's not real?
Hey, it's gonna happen, Kev. Like I said.
Can't even work out who I'd be shilling for. I can't even work out who I need to put the paycheck in.
Trump's gonna go on Rogan, and he's gonna tell Rogan, hey.
Do you think he's gonna go on there? I don't think he's gonna do it.
He's gonna be like, hey, my boy Tom DeLonge told me.
God almighty. That's at that point I'll tune out. I'll start smashing things, man. I'm like, oh, Trump, you're as... Well, I think he's as controlled as the rest, but that's for an hour show anyway.
Then that's it, Kev.
Now, somebody says he wishes he could meet Leo Zagami in person someday. Leo Zagami is a cool dude.
Big Leo, man. He
one of my favorites. One of my favorites. Definitely.
You want to talk about a fiery Italian fellow?
Oh, he's awesome, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
I think I had Jimmy with me the last time I had Leo on. Brilliant, man. He's a slippers guest. You know, you can just give him a question and off he goes.
You want to talk about slippers? Last time I talked to Leo was when him and Christopher Everard were.
Oh, let's get into that. Let's do it. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We do still have the Wookiee. He hasn't been thrown out. He's not been naughty. He's fine. I've just forgotten tonight. But we're moving into the final segment, and myself and Scott agree we need to really dial up the woo for you heading on into the paranormal portal. And I've got a K9 weird one. Scotty's got some UFO stuff. But dude, we were talking about somebody in the chat room was talking about how they would like to meet Leo Zagami. And Leo Zagami for me is one of, even if I hadn't interviewed him myself a couple of times, he would still be one of my favourite people to listen to. He's a character. He's got that whole Italian thing going on. He started his own Masonic lodge. He has got woo coming out of woo. The guy is... You said to me you've had a conversation, or you had him on with Christopher Everard. Him and Christopher Everard is radio gold. It's radio gold.
He used to come on Everard's show quite a few times, you know.
Yes, Chris. Yes, Chris. At the Vatican, and when the Pope the Third, he came to the lodge, and he said to me, Alex. He says, Alex, I see the aliens, Leo. I see the aliens. I can't do a good Italian, but getting there. It almost ended up French.
Yeah, he was kind of slipping. He was
slipping in between
kind of
shows there. He was like getting interviewed by somebody 1 minute, then it was Alex, and you know, he's a bit of a mover as our Leo.
And what always blew my mind is because, like, I always felt, well, I was totally out of my league when it comes to Leo and Everard, the amount of knowledge and information that they have when it comes to secret societies and the occult and that whole realm of things, and the back history and tracing back all of this stuff. And you were talking about how, you know, Leo, he's one of those people where you just kind of let him go and you can just sit back and kick your feet up, and you know, Everard's the same way. And then having those two together, you know, having a discussion, like, I think at least 2 or 3 times that we had him on, like, I don't even think I said one thing during the entire show. I think all I said was like, hello. Hello. And then him and Everard get to talking, and I'm just like, oh wow, these guys are going off, you know, into some deep woo and knowledge that I have no. There's nothing I can really chime.
That both of them can go to, that me and you have to just stand at the precipice, look over into the chasm of woo that they're in, and just marvel at it, and just say that
exactly.
We're a long way from there, Scotty. We're a long way from there.
And so for the person in the chat that said, you know, it'd be really cool to meet Leo Zagami, he is a really cool guy. You know, I've got to talk to him, you know, off air after the show and stuff we did with Everard, and he's just a really cool dude.
Jimmy,
really cool
Jimmy's
guy.
in the chat room. Jimmy, you're friends with Leo. Get it lined up. Kev Baker show. We need Scott there. We need you there. We need Leo there. 3 of us won't get a word in. We'll just set Leo off. Absolutely perfect.
I should message Leo because I have him.
I've got him as well, yeah, but he's like an elusive character, man. He always looks like he's moving at 100 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. You know, dodging the mafiosa, the Vatican. You know, the Swiss Guard are after him with their pantaloons and their big pointy sticks. Anyway,
I imagine.
Hey, don't mess with the Swiss Guard. There's always the chance that they've got a Swiss Army knife in one of those many pockets that they've got on that silly uniform of theirs.
Hey, you don't mess with a man with pantaloons, because if he's confident enough to wear pantaloons, he's probably a badass. Just saying.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. And if he's not, he's still got one of those Swiss Army knives, and any knife that can take the stone out of the hoof of a horse. I tell you what, man, you don't mess with these people. But anyway, talking of weird things, let's get back into the woo. Let's do it. And I have got perfect woo for all of you. We're going to go to Lon Strickler's website. And yes, I have full permission to go there and use what woo I like. And today there's a new story on there. Cryptid canine sightings recalled in rural northern Pennsylvania. Now, I think this may be to do with severe werewolf action. But let's take it away. Let's see. A boy in rural northeastern Pennsylvania had several sightings of an unknown canine that he refers to as my werewolf. It's an interesting series of encounters I plan to follow up on. Now, I think, yeah, there's going to be a super chat coming in. Thank you very much, Brian. I grew up an only child in rural. There you go, Bart. Homer.
Kev Empire Beneath the Ice is right up y'all's alley.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that earlier on. Steve Quayle book. And I know War, one of our good friends of the channel, he's actually in contact with Steve Quayle, and hopefully, can't promise, but you never know. When you start to think about getting somebody on, it usually happens, folks, alright? So, we'll see. I grew up an only child in rural northeastern Pennsylvania, and I used to sneak out of my bedroom and go and hang out in the backyard on summer nights when I had trouble sleeping or woke up in the middle of the night. Now, this was around the age of 8 in the mid-90s. I'd go sit just below the top of the backyard hill where I was out of sight of our kitchen window, and there were trees to the left, jokers to the right here. Oh no, that's a song. Trees to the left with a wild open field.
Is he, Kev? Is he stuck in the middle with Woo?
Oh God, dude! I was gonna say that, but I stopped myself because I thought it was ridiculous. I love you, man. You're finishing my sentences now. I tell you, dude. It's ideal. It's perfect, man. So there were trees to the left of him with a wild open field across the rest of a mile-wide valley. Now, we had a large hill with a bump in the middle that was perfect for sledding in the winter. Now, below that was a field with a deer trail cutting through the bottom of the hill and a creek beyond at the centre of the valley. Now, on a clear night with a bright moon, you could see across the valley to where my best friend's house had their floodlights on all night behind their house. It was about a mile distance. And when I say rural, I mean very rural Pennsylvania. Scotty, Pennsylvania, for your friend over the pond here. What are we talking about there, dude? I mean, whereabouts are we? What kind of... Is it like...
Northeastern Pennsylvania, yeah, extremely rural. We're talking about Johnny King territory.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about just woods and rural. Yeah, because like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and stuff. I mean, those are just like the main metropolises of the state, but there's a whole bunch of extremely rural. Most of the state's pretty rural, so
yeah. It's one I'm not. I mean, I've heard it talked about, obviously, but geography of it not that familiar, dude. So thank you. Where is it now? When I say rural, I mean very rural Pennsylvania. Parent-teacher conferences were scheduled the first day of hunting season, and kids would often be out for a couple of days just for that. Now, we had 2 houses in eye line of our house from the backyard, and it was more than 30 miles to our nearest Walmart. I also grew up very familiar with deer, bear, rabbits, and even saw a mountain lion once while hiking with the family. All of this to say, I'm familiar with wildlife there. Now, the first night I saw the dog man was like any other. I was chilling in the grass, thrilled to just be doing something my parents didn't know about. And I saw something moving quickly down along the deer trail. It was dark black against the rest of the night. Part way through its path from the woods beside my house, it noticed me and stopped. Now, we just stared at each other for what felt like a long time. It stood up, and its ears were long enough to notice from a 100-yard or so distance. Now, it was too thin to be a black bear, which I'd already seen a few times at that age. And the staring continued for a long time. Eventually, it put its ears back down, put its front paws on the ground, and sprinted across the valley. Now, I called it my werewolf because of the shape of it standing up. But after that first sighting, I went and sat outside a lot more. I remember once on a new moon, I sat on the porch because I was too scared to go too far with how dark it was without the moon. I saw it 3 or 4 more times after that. and it was actually running into the woods by my house, which were more than 10 full acres owned just for hunting season. And my werewolf never bothered me after that. But I remember I was really disappointed when it got cold outside, and I'd have to stop going out at night because I wouldn't see it. And that was one person's tale about their encounter. And what I find interesting about that, Scott, is when I done the show with Lon, I've still got the notes here or not, but there was like a couple of counties in Pennsylvania where this dog man, this werewolf, whatever it was, there was like multiple sightings, dude. This is the one where there was like the upright canine bending over, helping itself to roadkill. But it almost had the predator effect. It had like a shimmer to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, because Lon said it gave it a really supernatural kind of feel when he was taking the kind of report. And this was a guy not into paranormal, not into anything, and straight home. Oh, absolutely floored it, into the house, locked the door, grabbed a gun, and didn't move. And when I was listening to the story, I'm thinking, that's exactly what you would probably do if you seen something like that. You would absolutely yourself. Let's face it. There's going to be brown stuff piling up in the bottom of your trousers after that, right? So Pennsylvania, very interesting place by the sound of it. Bigfoot as well.
We're
Lots of
talking
stuff.
about like eastern Pennsylvania. That's close to the Appalachian Mountains.
What is it with mountains, Scott? There's usually mountains and woo go together, right?
Yeah, well, you were talking about a lot of rural land, a lot of wooded area and stuff that people...
Perfect habitat then.
Just perfect habitat, basically. And that whole area, the whole Appalachian Mountains, that go along kind of the eastern U.S. I mean, that whole area has a lot of sightings of Bigfoot and cryptids, and there's a whole lot of just woo in that entire area. Anyway, so it doesn't surprise me that eastern Pennsylvania, or northeastern Pennsylvania, would be a hotbed for these sightings and the dogmen. We've talked about the dogmen before, these upright creatures that have a dog head, and some of them appear to have a human-like body, and it's just one of those things, man. Where are we talking about? Werewolves? Was it a I can't say it. A lichen, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's something to that too. Like the core of that story of werewolves, just like the core of like vampires.
Yeah, with you.
I mean, I know that it has become sort of Hollywood and the entertainment industry has portrayed it in a certain way, and so everyone has a certain perception of it. But I think at its core, the original stories of dogmen or these werewolves, it descends from something. It comes from something that's very real.
Something I hadn't considered until I looked at it the other day with Lon coming on, is the description of the dogman, and it's usually got, I don't want to say typically, but many sightings, they talk about amber glowing eyes. And I hadn't really considered this, Scott, but there was one article I was reading that was going over like potential theories and ideas, and how about if you throw an Anubis in there?
Oh, see, I mean, that's
the,
what I'm saying. Like,
not bright walking dog-headed thing, right?
yeah, exactly. And I mean, that doesn't fit the Hollywood portrayal of werewolves, right? But that's because we've been conditioned to think of werewolves in that way. Where if you just step back and you take all of the Hollywood and entertainment and book writing sort of aspect out of it, and you just kind of look back, yeah, I mean, Anubis fits a perfect sort of mold for a dog man, lycanthropy.
Yeah.
And are we talking about an interdimensional being, an entity of some sort that's how it manifests, or that's what it looks like?
Very revered by the Egyptians, right? Really integral in their kind of death, in the underworld, things like that.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Anubis. I mean, you also had like Thoth, which was a bird-headed humanoid, and you had all of these like what seemed like weird cross hybrid entities. And what is this? The Dingo Man.
Obviously we've got
Interesting.
a lot of people down in Australia, and Luna's like, yes, Kev, dog people, Dingo Man, Anubis. It doesn't seem to matter what woo we've got, right? The Australians, they've got the equivalent, and it's not that I'm mocking it, it's that I find it bloody fascinating.
Well, yeah, because it just shows that these things are prevalent around the world, and that many different cultures and people have their own versions of this. So, a dingo is essentially just like a wild dog in Australia, right? An untamed wild dog. And so a dingo man would be one of these hybrid humanoid entities that with a human body and a dingo head. So
I'm only laughing because there's actually an entry in the Urban Dictionary for the Dingo Man, but I definitely don't think it's what we were looking for. But yeah. It's amazing what you find on Google. It truly, truly is. Yes. Now then,
yeah.
somebody saying, I don't trust werewolves compared to vampires. Werewolves, yep. At least vampires, yep. They do like to have some you and me time, shall we call it? For lack of a better term. The vampire thing. I'm very open to a bit of that. The vamps. Old Count Dracula.
Oh,
yes.
Well, I mean, vampirism exists in, I think, many different forms, not just the whole blood, I want to suck your blood,
They're probably some of the less scary ones,
Yeah, they're spiritual and energetic vampires, mental it's anything where somebody feeds off of the energy that they're getting to come out of you, and generally I would say, negative energy of some kind, or just hell, man. There's a lot of relationships where the partner is being vampiric. You know what I mean? So, I mean, vampirism, it exists in a lot of forms. And
what do you make of this whole kind of trend of people like going full vampire now, to the point of like, you get the teeth in, you live the lifestyle? I mean, is that...
I think the real vampires probably laugh at those people.
I think so. I think they might be their first victims.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Like they think they're being edgy and all of that, but I don't think they really understand what like real vampirism
You're
is.
only edgy until you come across a 2,000-year-old vamp that's been kicking about for millennia.
Remember that movie Blade with Wesley Snipes?
Yeah, man, that was good.
Yeah, it reminds me of a scene in there where there was like, if I remember correctly, there was like this wannabe vampire or something like that. This like goth person, trying to do the whole vampire get up and all that. And then when the real vampire showed up,
It was a whole different kettle of fish altogether, dude.
Yeah, it wasn't so cool then because he ended up on the dinner plate or whatever, or that person. So that's kind of what I get from these people that think they're edgy and cool, and ooh, I'm gonna prick myself and let you suck a little bit of my blood.
Not for me.
Like, okay, well, it just sounds like a.
It's kind of crazy, innit? It's kind of like you say. I think it's just people trying to be a bit different.
Not very safe to do in this current situation we're living in.
Definitely wouldn't say so. We're almost on the end, dude. We're almost on the end. Now, hang on. It's not everyone can say this. But I've literally just been contacted by a wizard.
Did the wizard contact you?
You see, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
I know. Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Well, he dropped in on Joe and Ange the other day, and if anyone was on my live stream, you know what Joe was trying to do to me during the live stream. Pain in the bum. But he says, being the wizard that he is, I can't repeat any of that on air. He had a good time with Joe. Just to say, he had a good time with Joe.
Oh, I bet they had a hell of a time. I can just imagine the shenanigans that the wizard and Mr. Joe Joseph get up to.
Yeah, you see, we've got King Sweet in the chat, and I always say, all rise, His Majesty. But King, I'm afraid, you ain't the Wizard King. The Wizard King.
He ain't the king.
Yeah.
Remember he used to do his segment, The King's Court?
I thought you were gonna say Martha Washington's cookbook.
No, well, that's a classic.
The King's
classic
Court was brilliant. The King's Court was great.
Yeah, The King's Court was absolutely fantastic.
Bro, we don't even have time to let you do your Tom DeLonge story. Oh, bummer.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame. What a shame.
Yeah, so I won't get triggered for a third time today then. I'm okay. I'm all good. Folks, listen. At times I forget I'm doing a show, and myself and Scott, we just talk the way we would talk off air. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really do. And myself and Scott will be back next Thursday together. We'll team up. We'll be in a totally different frame of mind on the Thursday to what we do on the Friday. You know that. I promise next Thursday I won't be calling anyone human rats. I won't be ranting and raging. I won't be talking
Just
about
remember, Kev,
Just
remember, Kev, the rat is related to the gerbil. That's all I'm going to say.
That's all you need to say. That is all you need to say, my friend. I feel you. So, folks, listen, I hope you've had a good time. Jimmy Jeans, big shout out to you, brother. We'll need to get you back on. You were meant to be coming on a stream on Tuesday, and I didn't even see you. Probably my fault, my bad. But we'll hook up again soon. And remember, stay tuned. Who's coming up after the break, Scott? Take it away. Tell them who's gonna woo them.
Yes, you are about to embark on an adventure. You are about to embark on a great crusade through the portal, the paranormal portal, with Brent Thomas.
Well, I pro. I'm telling you, man. You need to take over this show, and I'll just sit back and I'll just entertain the chat room with funny faces and funny jokes and, shouting at things from time to time. Hey, there's the music. Well, that means wherever you are, make it TFR, but coming right up, Brent Thomas, don't go anywhere. You're going through the paranormal portal. Oh, hey, Brian.
Great lurk, gents. Much live chat. PPP.
Brian had forgotten it was Friday today. I almost said Saturday because it's Saturday here. But you always know it's been a good week when you lose track of days, Scott. I find.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
You've been busy,
when
doing some stuff. I need to rapidly get something up on my screen here before. That's okay. I was about to get a copyright strike from Sky TV or something playing in the background. Yes, folks, that's right. It is a TV. I can't remember who said to me recently though. I think it was yeah, you know that guy that was the drummer for Billy Joel's band, you know, Lib. He says, "Damn, Kev, that fire's been on for the full show, and you've not had to poke it once or put any wood on it." I said, "Yes, YouTube."
It's
really?
it's a very convincing fire, Kev. And it even has the depth to it. It actually looks like it's like set into your wall. That's what's crazy.
No, remember
Like-
I used to be a Google shell? Remember I used to be on their good list? I used to be like the man. They used to come at me and talk to me, and I had to sign NDAs and things like that. Well, I don't
Yeah.
think I'm going to get in any trouble for telling you. It's quite funny. The first time I spoke to her, she goes, "Oh, wow, brilliant. I love your YouTube fire. I've got the same one at home." Why, you bastard. Talk to the mothership and they catch you out all the time. There'll be no more
That's-
talking to the mothership. I'll never ever want to be back on their good step ever again.
Comms have been lost with the mothership.
Oh, well lost, dude. Well lost. Giving up establishment. You know what I mean? It's like 6 months and waiting. Give up. That's why I'm happy here on KBS too. That's why we stick to the woo here. We keep it
It's
kind of.
okay. The universe is going to work in your favor. One day you're going to wake up and it's just going to bing.
Yeah, but
Might
even
back
then,
off.
Scott, even then, I like it here. It might sound mad. I would rather speak to, we would maybe get 60 to 100 people over here. I'd rather speak to that than 300. Chat, it's harder. You don't know everyone. There's going to be people that trigger you. There's going to be people that don't like you. It's not that everyone agrees with us here, but we're respectful, you know? We don't we don't act assholes with each other. And I don't know, when you get bigger, that just attracts sometimes the wrong people. Quality
That's
over
a fact.
quantity.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I'm saying, though? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
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 I mean, don't get me
yeah,
wrong.
no.
I would love to be like, everyone would love to be the Doc or like Metaker. Everyone would love that. I mean, just one blast of having 10,000 on a stream just to see what it's like. I mean, yeah, cool, but really, how much time can you spend with the audience then? You know, not much.
Remember that one time when the bots started flooding the chat
I'll
and
never
we started
forget it.
crapping
Yeah,
ourselves
we got to
because we
only
thought
600.
we thought it was going down, man. We were like, did the algo pick it up? Oh!
Wasn't that the night that we had like? I think that was the night that we had put Popeye in the WWE poster because it was like SmackDown or like the Royal Rumble or something was on. And then people come in and they're not talking about wrestling. No, funnily enough, we're not.
Popeye is persona non grata on YouTube.
Any move? Oh, he is. He's dude. I'm not saying it's him that got my channel killed, but he was there. He was there.
I think the algo just flags his voice profile at this point.
Yeah.
Like it just knows when he's talking, and it's like,
He has got a distinctive voice.
He does. He
That's
does.
why he's
He
the
does have a
pop. And then any further forward on you and the pop popping up somewhere?
I'm thinking of options, and we're gonna work something out. But we do have stuff. We do have stuff planned and then in the works. We're gonna try to go.
Is this gonna be like live from the chicken coop?
Yeah, probably. I mean, if you see the poopster sitting there with his beard and a bunch of chicken feathers flopping around by him,
At least
hearing
he's
a bunch
hanging
of
about with real chickens.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, indeed.
Uh-huh.
So what we're doing is we're thinking of doing something kind of revolutionary. We're gonna try and go total alternative platforms and see what we can do with it. Like, see how far we can push it. We're gonna stay away from YouTube, the Googles, any of these mainstream platforms. We're gonna just try to go total alternative platform.
I don't
and
know why
see
you don't just get a Discord server, because you said Popeye knows his way around them,
That's where we're going to launch it from.
Yeah.
We're gonna start out with Discord, and then we're gonna branch out from there.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna look at the best options that I think are gonna have longevity, and not pick some platform that's gonna end up going under. You know what I mean? So it's looking for something that's gonna have some staying power, and then we're just gonna stick with it and see what we can do.
Well, I hope I get an invite now and again, once or twice maybe, if there's time.
Oh, we'll definitely get an invite.
That's
because
okay then.
Believe me, everything that we're going to be doing, Hangar 18 material is on the table. So
Nice, absolutely nice. Talking of that, I do have a funny story that we could maybe look at just quickly before we go today. If I've got it in my folder, if not, we can move on. But if I do have it, it's really funny. Nah, I don't have it. It's a pity.
also, this Sunday on the open mic on the Discord, I will be joining Polly.
Oh, it's you this week, is it? Nice.
I believe so. Polly, if Polly confirms that in the chat, as far as I know, I think that's still on. So, we will be having some discussion in the open mic. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. We'll just be talking about anything, I guess.
Well, when you're in there ain't nobody to say nothing, dude. Algorithm? What algorithm? You know what I mean? The only algorithm we have in Discord is my friend, Algo. He's the algorithm.
Yeah. So we'll be getting into whatever Polly wants to talk about, wherever the conversation leads us.
And then the week after that, we're getting a bit of a Mammoth Hunter as well. Dang, dude.
Nice.
It's all going on. You see, Scott, there's been a kind of coup in the Discord. It might be my name on the door, but just a visitor there from time to time.
It's okay. It happens.
I built the compound, and then it got taken over.
Is it next week, Polly? Okay. See, I hyped myself up for no reason.
Scott just got booted. Not this week, Scott.
Okay.
Yes. Scotty, is this Discord Kev's Discord? No, it won't be. It'll be Popeye's Discord. Because Popeye's got one, doesn't he? When you start your thing, I'm talking about, Scott.
When I start my thing,
with the poop.
Is it going to be Popeye's Discord? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we haven't even fleshed out what we're going to call this thing. It probably will just be named after his rabbit hole radio.
I've got a good name for a podcast.
Okay, throw it out there.
NBN, No Bull News.
NBN, No Bull News.
I like that, dude. Yeah.
It's got a nice ring to it.
I kind of stole it off my big man Jeremy, the quarter, and he's got news without the bull. So I thought, I like that. No Bull News. I think that works. It's not quite stealing. And I will give him full credit. It's not like I'm hiding the fact that it inspired me. Credit where it's due. It's not blatant plagiarism, just slightly. Just a little bit.
It's okay. It's okay.
Polly says next week, dude, you just hyped the show even more.
Excellent. And Happy birthday to your stepdad, Polly.
I was about
Wish
to
him
say,
a happy birthday.
I was about to say, shit, did I miss Frank's birthday again? Oh, damn, dude. No bull news. That's it, man. Yep, I like that. I like it. So I think that's about it, Scott. I think that's about us. I
Think so.
Yeah. Dang.
Think so.
Exactly, Rob. Dang. I've only been like streaming for just over 4 hours and still can't get enough. Oh, I just can't get enough. And we broke into song tonight as well. Stuck in the middle of woo. I mean, come on, Scott. I mean, gee, man, we should give ourselves more credit. You know what I mean? That's good stuff.
Here I am, stuck in the
Brilliant
middle.
song. Brilliant song. Absolute classic. In fact, I think I'm going to kick off the disco with a bit of that. Polly, there's your first song for the day. We're going to get a bit of that before Scott absolutely rapes it and takes it into really bad stuff. So then,
but before
Yes.
we got on the show, I was listening to a little bit of the Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza. And
is it good?
remember when me, you, and Joe did that story about like the top 10 most ridiculous heavy metal band names?
Yeah.
The Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza was in that list, and they're a band that I really like. And
they're pretty good.
don't let the silly name fool you.
Never. Never, ever. So, with that said, yes, Luna's busy laughing. I don't know if Luna just laughs at me or just because it's me. Sometimes I think people just come here to laugh at me, but that's okay. That's okay. I roll like that. That's cool. Scotty, it's been a pleasure, as always. And
always.
If I do something tomorrow, I will hit you up early on and see if you're busy or not. Can't promise though, folks. I don't know how it's going to go tomorrow, but I do know that I am enjoying my streaming very much these days. Getting into the deep woo, it's really easy to come along and talk about that because I love it. And Kazi, if you're still listening out there, please don't think I was kind of like being really negative on the UFO stuff. It's just, I'm being honest. I'd love to get into the UFO woo, but
it's just there's been so much stuff that has.
I love UFOs, you know, but
I do too.
It's hard to know who to trust.
So much stuff has kind of soiled the whole thing, and it's hard to get into it without feeling disappointed and discouraged about kind of the whole state of ufology right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
Yep.
Until they turn up, and even then, I'll probably be screaming Project Bluebeam. But until next time, folks, it's been an absolute blast. I've had a great time. I hope you've had a great time too. Scott certainly looks like he's had a great time. So I'm happy. Scott's happy. You're all happy. Let's head on over to disco and get the music started and get the disco going. We are. Keep your mind out of here open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. Now, what one will I put on? Let's try this one. Oh yeah.
Ooh, time.
You see, that's pretty cool, man. YouTube library's got a lot of new drum and bass in there.
Awesome.